It's all relative.
Can you hear from Bob?
Bob's he's in the parking lot. He's right there. Hi. Good, how are you? Yeah.
They work.
You gonna sit with us? We're approaching the 700 hour. We're having time right now.
Yeah, like this, that's totally,
That's what we
that,
want.
I know, I know this part. I haven't seen this elongated part yet ever. So you have this, that's genius. Right. No matter what they do.
Are you sick? Yeah. Oh my gosh, we're terrible at our house with that.
It can't be plugged up.
It's different.
Never be plugged up.
You have to look at you with it, put it's already, they don't have to excavate.
And then do all that. Just, like do all this, but just use
All right, we ready? We good? All right.
So it's different apart.
Okay. I keep forgetting what day it is. All right. It is 7:02 on Thursday, September 5th.
Meeting starting, excuse me.
I love that you're all here. You really do. It's Thursday, September 5th. It is currently 7:02, and we are going to begin the Pembroke Conservation Commission for this day and time. We have Mr. Bob Clark, Mr. James Campbell, myself, Nicole Pelletier, we have Mr. Gino Fellini, and we have Mr. Rick Madden present for our meeting tonight. So let's see here. Please note that this meeting is being made available to the public through a video and audio broadcast on Comcast Government Access Channel for broadcast at future dates. Comments made in open session will be recorded. All right. Let's see here. So number one on our agenda here, we have,
I think we need to say that we have Andrew Wardell here also.
oh, of course, well, we will. We also have Andrew Wandell present right now. Hi, Andy. All right, so, and he is our conservation administrative agent. Let's see here. So all parties that are participating via remote participation in accordance with the requirements of 940 CMR 29.10 via audio and video conferencing software, all votes during this meeting will be made via roll call. That was part of the original thing. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is the Veterans Agent David McPhillips with regards to the memorial bench at Veterans Forest. Do we have Mr. David McPhillips here? Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, David.
Nothing but good stuff here, because there's been some improvements to town forest, Veterans Town Forest, which is part of your domain, okay? A couple things were done that we were done with the permission of the board. Number one, a Boy Scout did his Eagle Scout project down there. And I don't know if you've seen it, but he built a sign identifying it as Veterans Park, Veterans Town Forest. And it's a remarkable job. And I think I'd like to tell you who he is. It's Jacob Bronzell. he did the work. And it came out really nice. I kind of really like it because it before, the park down there with the flag, no, it's Veterans Town Forest. And the other improvement was we had a bench down there, and if you can remember, it was quite a while ago, I came before the board and talked about Lonnie Crudup Sr., who was a World War II veteran at the Battle of the Bulge. Okay, most everybody knows what that is, pretty important. Then he came back and he became twice elected he was the first African-American Legion commander elected him twice, so they must have liked him. Okay, so we've done the bench for him, it's done, and coordinating with the American Legion, we're going to have some sort of nice ceremony because Lonnie Crudup Jr. is still with us, okay? So he would like to come down and see it, just maybe do something little. But I think that area, I get a lot of Boy Scouts coming to me. Boy Scouts are very active in our town, and they are always looking for Eagle Scout projects. I wouldn't do anything without coming before the board, but I think it's like a place where it's underutilized, and it's really kind of beautiful. A lot of people might like to go there. There's a hike back through to Silver Lake, and I think we could work on a couple things. But I was hoping to come tonight and give you a date when you all would be invited to something, to like a little unveiling for this bench. But of course, I don't have it. But I will tell you it's in the future. Okay, so thank you. Things
Thank
are
you.
going rather well, and we'll keep at it.
Perfect.
One question that, in my mind, I remember when we first talked about the bench that is there, we were gonna have a plaque on it. Did that ever come about?
No, we just have the engravement, okay, which wasn't done at town expense at all, okay? Military Support Group paid for it, which they're willing to do for a lot of veterans, any veterans. But the plaque, I don't know, we didn't want to go overboard. And he already does have like a plaque on the flagpole in front of the new community center. So pretty well representative of him, and like to do the same thing for other veterans, especially those who have done something significant or given their lives.
And I think it was the board's opinion, I think it would still be, that we would prefer having our benches up at there than down at the Hearn Run. Our Hearn Run is getting pretty crowded with items,
Right.
so that if anyone comes, we would appreciate that they consider putting whatever memorial they might be interested in up in that area.
Good idea. Very good idea. Okay, so we're open to more benches. It could be resting places. The ideas are endless. Okay, so we'll just keep going on it. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for all of your efforts.
Thank you, David.
Let Andy know when you have a date nailed down for us to come and visit.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so let's see here. We are going to be moving on to our hearings. Momentarily. There's about 30 seconds of time here. Close enough. All right, so now we're going to be opening up our hearings. Are you okay? Okay.
Yeah, feedback. I turned the volume up.
Okay. So let's open up our hearing. It is now 7:10 p.m. We are now hearing the notice of intent for 0 Pleasant Street, which is SE 56-1111. And we have a representative there. Please come up and state your name and all the above.
Great. Hi everyone, my name is Rihanna Summers and I work for Weston and Sampson. And I'm here representing the town's DPW. Yeah, sure, sorry. Um, so I'm Rihanna Summers from Weston and Sampson, and I'm here with Dan Sullivan from the town's DPW. And we're here tonight to discuss the proposed well field project at what's known as the Swanberg property, located at 0 Pleasant Street. All right, so first, I just wanted to give a little bit of overview and background of the project. So the town, a few years ago, I think in 2019, submitted a notice of intent to start doing some explorations of this property at 0 Pleasant Street, just to see if it would be suitable for a potential new well field. And so a few years ago, they installed a few test wells on the site, and they also conducted some pumping tests. And based on those results, it was proven to be a suitable site for a new source approval for the new groundwater supply source. So just as a little bit of background, that pumping test was done in 2020 under that DEP file number, and we are also requesting to close out that old order of conditions, just kind of administratively. So we did file a request for a certificate of compliance for that work as it's done, and it's been done for a few years. So we're hoping to close that out, and yeah, so we're here tonight to propose a permanent well field on the property. And the purpose of the project is just to meet the existing water demand within Pembroke for its residents and businesses. And basically, the development of a new water supply would essentially enhance the redundancy and capability of the town's existing water system. And the project also filed with the planning board. And I just wanted to note that that meeting is going to be on Monday. So in a few days, they'll have the planning board meeting. We did receive, there was a third-party peer review for the planning board submission. And we reviewed the comments and they were very minimal. Not a lot of concerns, and we are going to respond hopefully prior to the planning board meeting. That's the plan anyway. So this is kind of hard to see on this, but I have a better map and a couple slides. The site's located at 0 Pleasant Street, and it's near the intersection of Oak Street and Pleasant Street. And it's on a former cranberry bog property. So these are just a couple photos of what the access on the site looks like. Again, it's a large parcel. It's about 68 acres, and we're only proposing work on a fraction of the site, the portion furthest away from the wetlands and closest to Pleasant Street. And yeah, it's a town-owned parcel, currently undeveloped. There are a couple of old former cranberry bogs on either side of an existing gravel access road that extends from Pleasant Street out to the site. Part of the project site is within the 100-year floodplain, which generally is, I have a map that I'll show, but it's generally coincident with where the wetlands are, as you would expect. And there is a perennial stream, Pudding Brook, that's to the south of the site, but the work is primarily outside of the riverfront area. So here's another look at the site. That yellow polygon to the north is where the proposed work is proposed. So the proposed pump station will be at the north of the site. I'll show a site map in a minute. And there's also 3 permanent wells that are proposed towards the south, where you see that little jut out. But I just wanted to show the location of the work and the site development compared to the resource areas. As you can see, most of it, we tried to keep it as far away from the wetlands as we could. So we're proposing almost all of the work, and almost all of the grading will be outside of the buffer zone. These are just a couple photos of the wetlands. There's a pond, and then a wetland, former cranberry bog, and the bottom photo is of Pudding Brook, where it flows out of that large pond, and it flows west underneath the existing access road. So the proposed project, So this is showing that northern part of the site, right off Pleasant Street. Currently, a good portion of this is wooded, so they will have to do some earthwork and some tree removals in order to prepare the site. And then they will, as I mentioned, there's an existing gravel access road that travels from Pleasant Street down through the site for access, but they are also going to improve that and expand on it a little bit and construct a small little gravel parking area for vehicles that would service the pump station. And you can see in pink that little square is the proposed pump station and chemical feed building. And there's also a small proposed retaining wall for screening to the east of the pump station. You can see there's a little concrete generator pad. And then to the south and north of these areas, but also on the sheet, are just miscellaneous stormwater features. So like there's a couple infiltration basins and an infiltration trench that are proposed. And you can see in dark blue, that dark blue dashed line at the like bottom of the photo to the south is the 100-foot buffer zone. So you can see that almost all of this work, the actual grading and almost all of the vegetation removals are outside of the buffer zone. And it's hard to see, but there's another line there to the south of the development. That's the Zone 1 wellhead protection area. And we needed to design this portion of the project so that it was outside of that. So we're working with a few different constraints, mostly the wetlands on site, and trying to stay as far away as we could. So this portion, this plan sheet shows mainly the portion of the work that's in jurisdictional areas. So you can see the 100-foot buffer zone line in blue. And then in orange is that existing gravel access road, which is currently maintained and usable. So they're not proposing like any upgrades or like, this is already existing access that they'll be using to get to where the wells are going. And then on the west side, you can see there's the existing wetlands to the west and east. And the pink line is the approximate 100-year floodplain, which you can see is pretty coincident with the wetlands. But we're not proposing any work in wetlands or in floodplain. We're just in buffer zone. And so the three permanent wells are those three little yellow squares to the south of the site. And those will be located right off of the existing access road. It's relatively clear vegetation in there already just because it's right next to the access road. It's mostly grasses and herbaceous ground cover vegetation. But there will be a little bit of vegetation removal just to make room for installing each of those wells, but pretty minimal. And you can see in that photo on the bottom right, that is, you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but the yellow thing in that photo is one of the test wells that was installed under the prior project when they did the testing. And the new permanent wells will be essentially right next to those existing wells. So basically the same area they worked in a few years ago when they did the exploration of the site. Each of the wells will have a chain link fence around them, 10 foot by 10 foot, I think 8 feet high, for security. And there will be a concrete electrical equipment pad next to each of them. And then just north of the wells is a proposed underground concrete vault, which will house some things, mostly the meters. And once the wells are installed, they'll be basically manifolded together, and the water will travel through the vault and the meters, and then it'll travel basically up underneath the existing access road, and then into the pump station for treatment. And then after it's treated, it'll get distributed out to the overall like bigger water system for the town. This sheet just shows, with this I just wanted to show kind of the grading that's proposed, and just show that most of it's outside of the buffer. The majority of the grading that you're seeing is proposed for the stormwater features that's needed to treat the stormwater runoff on site. There's 2 big infiltration basins that are proposed one to the north, just off Pleasant Street, and then one to the south. You can see the southern corner kind of intersects the 100-foot buffer zone line. But yeah, I just wanted to show there is somewhat significant grading proposed, but most of it's outside of the buffer. And none of the grading is in the floodplain. This slide, I just wanted to show a couple more photos of the site relative to where the work is proposed. So I think I already showed that photo on another slide, but the bottom left is a photo of where the existing test wells are and where the proposed wells are going. And then to the bottom right is a view of the existing gravel access road where the drill rig will travel before it goes in to install and drill each of the wells. And then in the top right is just a view of the area right off Pleasant Street, near the intersection with Oak Street, where the pump station and the majority of the development will occur. So this slide, this is just a summary of the work that's proposed in buffer. So as I mentioned, there's a little bit of minor brush and tree clearing within the buffer at the well sites. And where the vault is going and the very southerly limits of one of the infiltration basins. The 3 proposed wells, each of them will be, I believe, 24 inches in diameter, and I think they'll go down to about 45 feet. And basically a drill rig will drive down the existing access road, drill in concrete casing, and then they'll take out the spoils. They'll store the spoils temporarily in an upland area surrounded with erosion controls. And then if it's a very small diameter, but if dewatering is needed, that will be left to the contractor to bring like their proposed methods for dewatering to the site engineer. But the dewatering will have to be monitored. It'll have to be no direct discharge to wetlands, and they'll have to monitor to make sure the water's clear when it's coming out. And yeah, I think that's essentially, and then there's also just installation of the utilities, the actual water main piping that will connect the wells to the pump station. That will go underneath the existing access road. And portions of that are in buffer as well. So the other component of this project is in order for them, basically when they install the wells, similar to what was done before, they need to do a pumping test for 48 hours just to ensure that the flow rates are good and that just that they're monitoring the surface water quality. And so that will be done after the wells are installed. And essentially this will consist of a hose that will be basically laid on the ground within the existing access road. And it will discharge the water to Pudding Brook. And this will occur for 48-hour period. Just because of the hose just laying on the ground, we did quantify it as a temporary impact to riverfront area and bordering land subject to flooding. But it's very minor. It's just the impact of the hose, which will be removed after the test is done. And we did include in the NOI a detail of how they're gonna like dissipate the energy and filter that water, but it'll be clean groundwater, and it will go through a filter bag on an energy dissipator, and it will also be monitored to make sure that the water is clear, and that there's no discharge of turbid water or anything like that. This just shows the orange line. It's a little faded, a little hard to see, but this is just showing the location of the proposed hose. So it would connect from the wells down to Pudding Brook. At the point where Pudding Brook flows out of that pond and underneath the access road, it flows west. So the hose would be, it would outlet to like an energy dissipation device. It would be filtered, and then it would go into the stream and then just travel west. Mitigation measures, there'll be sediment controls installed around the limits of work. We're proposing compost filter tubes. All the catch basins in the proximity to the project site on Pleasant Street will be lined with silt sacks. There will be a stabilized construction entrance installed off Pleasant Street just to limit the tracking of sediment into and out of the site. And we do show on the drawings some designated stockpile areas, which are at the northern part of the site, outside of the buffer zone and outside of floodplain and resource areas. I think I kind of touched on the other things already, but if dewatering is necessary, they will use a filter bag, most likely, or a similar BMP to filter the groundwater. They'll be discharged to an upland area, and then the groundwater will be monitored. And the contractor will also need to have spill response materials on site at all times during construction. And then to the right of this slide is just a diagram of the proposed discharge detail for that hose when they do the 48-hour pump test. It will run through a filter bag before it's discharged, and that'll be set on like an energy dissipation device. We show straw bales surrounding it just for extra protection. And then lastly, I just wanted to show the landscaping plan. Again, most of this is outside of buffer, but small corners showing one of the infiltration basins. So we are proposing to seed all of the disturbed areas, obviously anything that's not impervious surface or gravel. So we're proposing to use a New England erosion control seed mix and New England conservation wildlife seed mix. And there is, unfortunately, with the infiltration basins, to maintain their stability, we're not allowed to plant trees within a certain distance of the slopes. But we are proposing a few tree plantings where we can, based on the stormwater features that we're proposing. So you can see like the western side of the access road, we're proposing some tree plantings. I believe it's red maple and black cherry. And then there's some trees to the southeast also that are going to be preserved and protected during construction. I think that's basically it. And I'm happy to take questions if anyone has any.
I don't have any questions.
Go ahead, you go first.
Nope, I don't have any questions.
Oh.
You did a great job.
Tree, it was a great job.
Thanks.
Very nice narrative. Tree and brush removal around the well sites.
Yeah.
Can you go over that again?
Yeah, I actually have a tree removal plan. I included a couple other slides because I wasn't sure what questions might come up. So this is the tree removal plan that was included. And we went out and we did a survey for the planning board submittal. And this is obviously the northern part of the site. There are several trees that will need to come down, which
How many is several?
I think we counted, and I'm trying to, I want to say like 40. I feel like I have the number 42 in my
And-
head. But, okay. Yeah, I think it was in our narrative, but I would have to double check.
Did you say one was 24 inches?
I would have to look back at the drawings,
And-
because I think we took
The
the,
diameter? Is it 20 feet, the diameter of the tree?
Yes, just like.
Yeah, and why do they have to come down? Because they're in the way of the
unfortunately.
well and the pad that you're gonna have to pour around it?
Yeah, so let's see, I think we show, here we go. So these trees at the northern part of the site, you can see a lot of them unfortunately are within the footprint of where the gravel access drive has to go, where the pump station building is going and the associated parking and the infiltration basins. Like I mentioned, unfortunately, we're not allowed to have trees within a certain distance of them. So that's the northern part of the site. And then the actual wells are at the bottom of this sheet. And it's really hard to see. It's a little faded, but there's red kind of hatch marks where the clearing's proposed. And so basically, we try to be conservative on the drawings, but some of that's already cleared, as you can kind of see in the photos, like right off the access road, between the access and the brush line is pretty clear already. But there may be some shrubs that have to come down, just to maintain that like 10-foot by 10-foot cleared area
Right
around
on the
each
edge of the
well.
buffer zone.
Yeah, exactly, right on the edge. But the access road itself should be pretty clear already, so it'll just be really right around each of the wells.
Not to go and talk to you, Nicole, but while we're talking about trees, I would prefer if there's any tree in the general area of the wells and all that could cause future damage, that I would rather have it taken down now, and when the landscaping is done, replaced by some
Right,
tree that would not be as dangerous. So that would be my opinion in that area. And as far as the brush goes, we do need to keep the brush down so you can keep a mowed area around these facilities.
right,
But we do have I don't know, regulations, not a bylaw, but that every tree that comes down, 3 must be replanted. That may be hard, and this is the town, but I think we need to take that in consideration on the landscaping part, that some of the vegetation should be returned if
right.
possible.
I actually just noticed, that's a really good point, and I just noticed as we're looking at this, so we did do the tree survey, and all of the trees that were, basically they surveyed every area where we would need to do vegetation removal, and all of the trees for removal are shown as like those kind of deeper red colored little circles. So I just realized as we're looking at it, like to the south where the wells are, within buffer, there's actually no trees that would have to come down, so it may be just some brush, like saplings, or not but like little shrubs. Yeah,
So where is the actual line for the buffer zone? Is that arc, is that what?
Sorry, if we have questions, maybe we can just, does anybody on the commission have any additional questions before we move on to public question and comment?
One thing, the vault, how deep is the vault going to be placed in the water table?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
it is,
Is it going to be in the water table? Because you have a water table there that's vicious.
I think it's 16 by 8.
So the wall would probably be about 6 feet deep, because you gotta keep the pipes below the
Right,
freezing level.
right.
So it's probably right at the, around, I don't know what stat.
Pretty
it is.
close.
Yeah,
That
it's
area
probably
is-
right around that, but it'd be a watertight vault,
Yeah, that's what I was,
because obviously we don't want.
yeah, so it's not a really deep vault like the electrical vaults, I don't know what that is.
It wouldn't be anything crazy, but we do need to get below the frost.
Yeah, oh no, I didn't say that. Electrical vaults can go 10, 12 feet, they can be.
Yeah, I don't want
I
to
don't
go
put in impossible in that situation.
Yeah.
You ground dewatering, good luck with it, that place is like flows. I've
Yeah.
seen holes dug out there,
That's why it's good to put a well there.
beautiful place, great water supply area.
When is this slated to occur?
Next year?
So, if everything goes through, we're hoping that we can go out to bid for this winter and start construction in the spring, developing the wells and construction of the facility at the same time. We'd like to get this online within the next year, year and a half. It's been obviously in the making for 4 years already, 5 years, so we're trying to push it along.
Is there any sort of estimate as to how much additional water this provides in the system? Is it like a?
Yes, so it's already been permitted. We're expecting to get 350,000 gallons a day. Well, we know we can. So once that's developed, so we just abandoned well 1, which has been offline since 2009. That was rated for 500,000 a day. So this is almost making up for that. And then we're also developing other sites in town that you'll hear about later.
Thanks.
Do you have future development for more at this site?
At
Or
this
such
site,
a
no,
large
we're
site?
just,
No?
no, we're just looking at this.
Just tapping that much,
Weston
and that's-
Sampson did do a feasibility study for the whole property for other purposes down the road, whether it's nature trails or stuff like that. So there are other uses that are potential for this property that we're open to. This is all we need for the public water supply, plus the 400-foot radius that we have to maintain.
Yeah, there's plenty of water there, it's going, it's good stuff, so.
Yeah, luckily,
Not a lot
so
of
minimal
iron.
treatment that has to go on. We're
Yeah.
just gonna do pH adjustment,
Good spot.
disinfection, yeah.
Shall we open this up for public
Yeah,
comment?
during
Thank you.
construction and all there, you will have you'll have people of your company observing what's going on.
Yes.
Some of these people environmentally sensitive so that they can be looking out for conservation's interest on a daily basis and not necessitating someone from this department going down there once or twice a day. I mean, if somebody's there watching that can give the heads up when there is a major problem, or perhaps once a week, a quick report that says everything's in line. I think that would be very helpful for us. And also that the agent and/or a member of the board has access to the site.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to meet anybody out there whenever you guys want to walk through, but they'll have a representative there to make sure the contract is,
Right, I mean, also, and all of that, but I mean, someone that will have direct contact with our office so that, you know, if there's a major problem, we can get right on it. If it's a
Right.
minor problem, at least we know about it.
I think that you're obligated, no, to, I mean, in practice, do regular site inspections and
Yes.
ensure that all of the erosion controls and everything are in place anyways throughout the project, so it's, I think that's good as long as you have.
Pre-construction meeting.
Right, exactly, so the
Everything
process
that you
protects
just
it.
pointed out will be in the order of conditions, special conditions in the order of conditions.
Perfect.
All right.
And that all contractors have a copy of, is that in the?
They will, yes.
Anybody else over here?
All set.
We're good? All right. Thank you so much for presenting to us. We're going to open this up for public comment now. And anybody who would like to come up and provide public comment, please come up to the podium, state your name and your address, if applicable, and let us know what's going on.
Sure, yeah, I'm
Thank
Richard
you.
Cuna, I'm in Swansea, I'm an attorney, I'm helping the Benningtons better understand this process, and just to see that their interests are protected and preserved. A couple of key areas of concern, because of the gradient difference between they are on the, is it the?
It's the easterly side of it.
Yeah, the east border of the project, and there's got to be at least a 18-foot, 15-to-1 drop in terms of the gradient between their property and and Zero Pleasant Street. So of primary concern that they have is one of erosion. And there are a number of trees that are, you talk about 2-footers, I'm talking about 3.5-footers that are in the gradient that I am hoping are not going to be removed because obviously soil erosion is a key factor. In fact, there's a portion of their property it's almost a sheer cliff, and there is probably 4 or 5 very good size trees. I don't think they're in the cut zone, but that is an area that I'm going to need it to be more scrutiny in terms of understanding particularly what trees. Maybe be a situation where I could, would you be in a situation, would you be able to point out anything like that? I mean, not here and now, but I
we
mean.
could have the trees flagged. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah,
Trees flagged?
that could be very helpful, yeah.
I think that's doable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think,
I'm just referring to the ones, from our perspective, from my client, it's along their property line. Obviously, if it's, back behind and away from their property line, we don't have any particular interest at that point. I don't think there's a gradient issue there either.
definitely.
Yeah.
I can flip back to that slide too if it's helpful.
Okay.
Showing closer to their property.
Yeah, sure.
So you can see like they're on the eastern side, right?
Yeah, they're right, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like there's only, there's a few trees, but if I remember correctly, I think there's a good strip of kind of forested area between
Yeah.
the two properties, so I think they should still have a buffer. I know at the planning board meeting on Monday too, they can speak to this as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be a retaining wall along where the pump station is going, but due to where that infiltration basin to the north of the site, like I mentioned before, unfortunately, we just can't have trees.
Referring to the circle? Circled area?
Just north of the circle.
Oh, looks like the triangular looking
Yeah.
section, yeah.
mhm. So those, unfortunately, we have to take, but I think there are trees to the east of that, between the properties. We could double check.
Right. And,
Confirm, but.
okay. And, yeah, but
Facilitation pond is obviously not going to be part of the slope.
right. Yeah, of course, that's the flat section, yeah, yeah. It's just, it's the trees that are on the gradient that are of particular concern. Do you know what the duration of the construction project is? Is it a 6-month project, you know, in terms of the time they're gonna take to complete it?
They want to give the contractor up to a year and a half. We're trying to move it along, but for bidding purposes, they're gonna give the contractor a year and a half of the date they signed the agreement,
Okay,
just because the unknowns of getting materials and stuff like that.
right. And the other concern, of course, is gonna be that of dust. Is there gonna be any mitigation of?
Usually there's dust control on the site. We have a fire hydrant right there that could easily provide dust control on the site.
Yeah, I know, that's one of their concerns as well. And then the other major concern, that, you know, that is one of light pollution is, you know, I noticed that they talked about having the lighting and at the building,
It usually aims down.
it aims down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to attract attention to the building. To be minimal lighting, generally the guys are going to stop by there an hour a day during normal work hours, you know, every day of the year, 365 days a year.
Right.
There'll probably be a motion detector, because it's a gated facility, it should only go off if somebody pulls up to the facility.
Right, and the 10-foot fence walls, those are going to go around the well sites.
Yes.
And the 8-foot wall is going to go around the pump station, the pump house?
I don't think,
Off the top of
let
my
me
head.
go back to the site plan.
Or is that the chain link
The
fence?
chain link, there's a 14-foot retaining wall, I think.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, yeah, so there's
Alright.
a retaining wall, to the east of the pump station, that dark line. And then the actual fencing will go around the well heads
Yeah.
to the south.
Okay. Can you think of anything else at this point?
Is the chain link gonna be galvy or is it gonna be black? So it's blended and
We haven't gotten to that point. That's probably something more like planning board. I would think that'd be Monday night, we can discuss that. But I'll let the engineers know that that's a concern.
Yeah, all right. For now, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who'd like to make? Sorry to interrupt you earlier.
Yeah, no worries. I'm Robert Penniman. I'm at 155, so I'm just to the east of the site. I've known about this since, you know, this was always the intended use of this parcel, going back to having discussions with DPW when Hank and Jim and Kevin were on the board there. Swanee was still around. So there's a few questions that I have with relation to the site, and one is, if this is the buffer zone, not the buffer zone, but the, I guess the radius around the well point, how does that impact, like, the land use or potential land use? Like, that ring comes up into my backyard. Are there any kind of restrictions that are gonna be put on my property for that?
So that is something we have talked about. We need to purchase that thing. We have to own that 400 foot.
Okay.
So there has to be some agreement, and they survey the property, and we have to be in contact with you to survey that
Yeah,
out.
well, that, I know, I mean, I had been in contact with DPW 25 years ago, because they had, the house next to me at 151, they actually subdivided a lot off of the original parcel that my house was on. And there's an encroachment issue with an outbuilding that, I mean, I had talked to the old board, I had talked to Ed Thorne years ago. This was the big holdup in fixing that issue, was that until the well field was put in and, you know, potential land use, you know, it was defined what the town needed for the well field, before we could talk about any potential, I forget what the term Ed used, like surplus land. that could help me to fix my encroachment. One of the things I didn't know was if and when this time came, whether the town was gonna utilize, because the front of that gravel road, which isn't actually an access to that property, it was an old cart path, and when Edgewater Extension went in, Swanee, you know, he improved the place because Stanley was, you know, developing or selling off the parcels on Edgewater. So the cart path became a gravel road. And that's fine. I mean, when they put the town water in, Swanee had actually given them an easement over my property. And I was like, you know, how could you do that, Dave? You know, so it was a no-brainer. Mike came to me and I'm like, of course, you know, there's already a drainage easement. I'll give you the you know, the water. It's good for the town. But I just want to, you know, there's so many questions when it comes to a project like this. I want to make sure that we cover all bases. My interests are protected. This is probably the last chance I'm going to have to try and fix this issue that I have. So, you know, I just want to make sure the discussion's open if we can, and
So I know, speaking with Gene, he was aware that you had that issue.
Yep.
So they just finished the survey and they actually submitted it to the planning board, so that is a discussion we have to have with you.
and that's, I
How to
mean,
make
we
your
have.
lot compliant, and then
Yep.
us get what we need.
And I mean, I have stuff from Doug Bailey years ago on, you know, we had kind of spitballed on how to fix it. But, you know, that was one thing, so that answers that. We'll have to have a conversation about what the land use restrictions would be. And then I guess the other thing is that there's a drainage that daylights right at the back corner of my property. So does that have to get redone, like it's a stormwater drain?
Is it yours, or?
Well, so it comes down, I don't know where it actually comes down the road, but years ago, it used to just daylight out the side of a banker. And when they did the town, they put the water to connect the loop from Edgewater to Pleasant, Tiffany actually, because it was just flowing all over the place, they actually put a pipe in. So it comes out at the back corner, kind of into that old bog that was never used.
Yeah, is it, see to the south, like the bottom left of the screen, there's like a little
It would be
stream.
right here.
Yes, yep, that culvert,
So
yeah.
it used to come out here, and then they put a structure in, and they ran it kind of parallel down, there's a bank in here. And so that's where it daylights now. I just didn't know whether that had a potential impact on the water quality, you know,
I
where
don't think that was a concern.
potential
It's-
contaminants or.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the site plan, it doesn't look like they are proposing any work.
Okay.
But I can check the utilities just to
I'm
be
sorry?
sure.
What does it drain?
Road water, street water, yeah, stormwater, yeah. Then the only other concern, and we're still in kind of the planning stage of this, but there was a question about the staging area for construction.
Yes.
So that little gravel road that comes down the side, I kind of come down and use that to get to my back property. I have a bunch of staging under my barn and everything, it's like a constant back and forth. I just want to try and maintain that as an access in the back.
So to be honest, I believe the actual entrance will be next to those, that current gate you have.
I think it
we're
is
not gonna
too, I
actually-
think it's, but,
I think on the planning board, you'll be able to see that better.
yeah,
So
what
you should be
I'm
able to-
actually saying, so this road comes down here,
Correct.
and there's like a little road that comes in my backyard,
Yep.
and they had that as a potential staging area for construction equipment, I think. And it's, I mean, obviously,
I think that circles the staging area.
okay,
Yeah, the circle is,
Stockpile
that
area.
gray circle,
Yeah.
yeah, stockpile.
Yeah, so,
so this proposed construction staging area.
yes.
And I think somebody had asked the question if they needed to maintain that road opening.
So if you look at that easement is the road, so I
Yep.
think we're just on the edge of your
Oh,
road.
oh, okay,
We're
so
set
you're
up
on the
just-
right, okay.
Yeah, so we shouldn't
Yep,
impact you at
yeah,
all.
okay, sweet.
And I mean, that should all be staked out and, like I said, we're gonna have,
I just wanted to make sure to, you
Yeah,
know,
we're not looking to
to kind of
interfere with
keep the dialogue open. I mean, this has been such a long haul for me to try and rectify this situation. I mean, I get it, the town needs the water. You know, it's gonna be a good thing, it's just, I wanna make sure that there's no adverse impacts, you know, or try and mitigate them, you know, so, that's it. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you. I hate to ask this, but does anybody else have public comment for this particular hearing? No? And all of these plans are available on public record, so if you need a copy of anything, we have it available in our conservation office. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And how about a motion to issue the standard order of conditions with anything that we discussed in this meeting to be added to it?
This is an NOI.
Yes.
This is an NOI. You want to build according to plan, not issue an order. With conditions.
Yes, for conditioning.
With conditions.
It asks with conditions. Okay. All
Thanks
right.
for correcting me.
I
Sorry?
would second that.
All right, so second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Please note that any person aggrieved by this decision has the right of appeal within 10 business days. Please contact our office or DEP if you need assistance. The commission shall have 21 calendar days beginning tomorrow to issue an order of conditions. All right, sorry, we're running a little bit behind.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so now I'd like to move on. What time is it now? It's 7:51. We would like to open our hearing for a notice of intent at 0 Oldham Street. Parties that be, please come up and state your names.
Hello,
Hi.
Sorry for the wait.
I'm Chuck with Best Way Wildlife Control. I'll be installing a pond level over there.
Okay. All right, that makes perfect sense to me.
Can you explain how it works for everybody?
Okay. It's designed to breach the dam in the outflow end of the pond leveler determines the depth of the pond. So the higher it is, the higher the pond is. The lower it is, the lower the pond is. The inflow end of the pond leveler is encased in a steel mesh cage that is 4 gauge, so the beavers can't mess with it. It's designed so beavers are stimulated for damming through this hearing of the water and also the flow of the water. So the cage is large enough so they can't feel the flow of the water going into the pipe, and they can't they can attempt to plug it, but they can't because the cage protects them from attempting to plug the end of the pipe.
Okay.
I have a question right away. What protects the cage from plugging?
What protects the cage from
In
plugging?
other words, the water running through and into the cage is going to be carrying debris that's in the pond.
Yes.
And what keeps it from plugging the screen eventually?
There's nothing. That's why the cage should be maintained every 6 months to clean out around it. Because what will happen is that debris clings to the cage, and then the beavers can feel the water flowing through that debris, and then they will start to dam that. Exactly, so that's why. as long as it's maintained, there isn't an issue. I've run into it once where the beavers have dammed it because the homeowners allowed debris around it, and they were able to feel the flow of the water.
In other words, we should be entertaining a maintenance part of this, because I believe I heard you say 6 months. My experience in that area, and I think some of the other board members would say 6 months is nearer 6 weeks, if not 6 days, with the amount of debris that's moving in that water.
Depending on the seasonal discharge from the trees and
What size is the mesh?
4-inch.
Okay.
I thought it said 10-inch, 4 inches, doesn't stand a chance, and,
Well, 10-inch would allow a beaver to get in.
yeah, right.
yeah, well, I know, that's
So,
that's
yeah.
another question down the line.
Yeah.
But 4-inch also doesn't allow much of anything for small debris to go through. So before long, it'll start bridging the 4-inch holes and build up and basically stop what it's supposed to be doing.
I'm
I
not,
think the
fam-
maintenance is gonna be a big problem there.
I think it's just loose. I think Jeff is playing on maintenance. It's simple,
yes,
seasonally, you know.
yes.
Does it have a floor?
Yes, it does, because if
Thank
it
you.
didn't,
Yeah, they go
beavers
under
would
it.
go underneath it.
Right.
That's right.
It has a top and a bottom. It's a, basically a 5-foot cylinder,
Yep, saw that.
and the pipe goes into the middle of it,
Yep.
so.
Have you had any instances of beaver blocking up the outflow end?
I have not. I've had them where they've gone and tried to dam further downstream, but never where they've tried to plug the outflow in. Normally they leave that alone.
So do you think the don't, oh, that's the intake fence,
Yes.
the outtake, the outflow
The outtakes,
is,
it will have a cage around
Right.
the spillway that's built out of the same material as the cage itself for the inflow.
okay. That's the inflow.
I think the idea is great. I think the maintenance is gonna be tremendous down there.
I'm not familiar with how much water goes through there.
And it's not necessarily how much, it's how clean.
How clean?
And it's not.
Okay.
There's a lot of organic materials that are obviously in a beaver situation have been killed. They're gonna be dropping, floating dead limbs all the time. They're gonna, one leaf adds up to 20 leaves in the
Yeah.
fall. So 4 inches can be got pretty quick with just leaf litter in the right
Okay.
time of the year,
There are
Have you-
trees that are still alive in the water on the upper portion,
And then
so.
the phragmites, there's a lot of debris there that could flow through.
Have you determined a water level?
Have I determined one? I'd like to get it as close to the natural state as possible.
Well,
All
that
right,
was
well-
engineered by man to be a bog, so the state would be, the natural state is pretty hard to determine what that would be. That's, I think, what you're getting at, right?
No, well, I think the determination should be the height necessary for the beaver lodge that is there now to be viable.
Well, that's the goal. The
Good.
goal is to keep the beavers and for the neighbors to be satisfied with the water
And
level.
as
We
it
want
is-
to keep both parties happy.
As it is now, it is much lower than it should be,
Yeah,
Lower.
last time I looked at it.
because the structure where you're gonna put this device has been taken down a couple of feet.
Somebody went in and unclogged it, probably since you've been there.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was done by humans,
Yeah.
not beavers. So what we're saying is applicable to use the beaver lodge, number 1 lodge, right? There's 2 lodges, so
Number
number
one.
1 lodge,
The
to
first
make it
one.
applicable so that the beavers could still use it as a functioning hideout, otters could use it as a hideout, muskrats could still use it, because there's a viable system been created there, and it's really not backing up on anybody's individual property that I know of.
So,
The properties, the natural environment.
there's nothing for me to breach then, is what you're telling me, for the pipe to go through, because that area's been cleared.
Since you've been there, I believe that there was an alteration to lower the pond,
Okay,
and the trench that's before that water control structure, the old one, before it, there's a trench. You have to cross over a trench to get to it. That trench has been the water level that was maintained that worked for the beavers. At the bottom of that trench, I think it's about 2 feet down from the actual surface of the old dike road, which the beavers have used for a dam because they're smart. It was a dike road for a bog. So when you talk, you know, what's natural there and when they flooded the bogs, they basically would come up to the top of the road.
okay.
And that's what the beavers did, except for probably 6 inches more flooded one part of a road. And number 2 lodge, that's in a road. I don't think that road's gonna be viable until they move on down into which they're doing, they're moving down into the valley.
Well, we're really only concerned about the first one,
The first one, okay.
where he's
Good.
putting the
Yep,
device.
I got you.
So then,
We know where that level is.
yeah,
Yep.
so it's dependent on me where I set the
Well, it would
outflow
depend, it
then.
would depend on the beaver lodge, looking at it and getting the lowdown on where they were keeping the water, so it's still viable.
Well, if beavers have at least 3 feet of water, normally they're good, because they need at least 3 feet for the winter to survive, so the water doesn't freeze solid.
It's
So my
too
goal
low
would be
now.
to at least have 3 feet there.
There's gonna be spots a lot more than 3 feet, because they have big brush piles and ladders, and they muck those out, so even in a bad weather, they still have ability, you know, they have
Okay.
trenches they go in, and they have highways they make, and
So I guess
they're all intact, so an average of 3 feet over the shallow parts would be fine,
I have a
Yeah, that'd be
question.
my goal.
over the shallow parts.
Rick, if you don't mind, I have a question. So I guess in application, if say you were to go out and begin the installation of this, if you perceived that the water level would be too low, 3 feet that we're discussing, for it to adequately maintain that wildlife habitat there, would you contact the town to follow up on that, or would you just carry on with your installation and move on?
How about, I'll go out there and meet with them.
Yeah,
and discuss
that'd be
it.
great.
I'll show
That'd be
them.
fine.
And
That'd be good.
Because I
Yeah.
think like technically approving this provides multiple solutions for multiple parties, but we just want to make sure that the solution is viable.
So it works good for everybody.
Well, I'd like to throw something, I believe that we need a stamped engineer drawing before this structure can be put into an environmentally sensitive area such as this. And without a plan to go on, which would include all of the subjects we are talking about now, plus a maintenance plan and all that, I don't see how I could possibly, the idea is great, I don't see how I possibly could begin to approve it the way it sits right now.
Right, it's just too broad.
Yeah,
It's not enough
It's just, it's wide open and it sounds good, it would be good
Yeah.
if we were in ideal situations, but we have a lot of things that need to be done, and that's what we need an engineer drawing for.
You can bring up an interesting point that by process, this being a notice of intent filing, there are specific requirements that do need to be provided to further prove that wetland impacts aren't substantial.
Well, Rick and I both know the level that is comfortable for the beavers, that didn't flood anybody's land.
Okay,
So, because I maintained the water level for over a year,
With that trench.
so I know where it is.
The beavers started using the trench big time, so it was.
okay. Oh, then your input would be needed for that then.
So, we can meet you there anytime.
Okay. Well, before I go and do the installation, I'd contact Andy, and Andy could contact you,
Yeah,
so we'd have it coordinated.
no problem.
I think,
I like the idea.
It's a great
I like the
idea.
idea, I still think it has to be perimeter correctly.
Yeah,
Well, we did have a conversation with DEP about that,
yeah.
and they were not requiring a stamp plan.
Perfect, okay.
They weren't
Okay.
requiring
They
what?
weren't requiring a engineered stamp plan.
This could constitute as a
If we have
repair,
to have an
right?
engineer's
They could constitute as a repair.
Yeah,
if we have to have an engineer's stamp plan for boat moorings and.
I understand
and
that,
all of
Bob,
this is strictly in that category, and I'd have to,
But we asked them specifically about a stamp engineered plan.
I'd
They
have to
said-
challenge them on that, because we either have to do it right or wrong. And if they're demanding it for other structures, such as the B type of things in Silver Lake that circulate the air and all that, then this is definitely falls in that category.
so we have to continue.
It's not that I'm trying to do it, it's just that I want it done right.
There's no numbers, so we have to continue.
May I speak?
Absolutely.
The issue arose spontaneously and organically in a select board meeting. This was not brought by a staff member or anyone else. The health agent, who, as Mr. Chenard had pointed out that evening very vociferously, Board of Health has beavers. They have oversight over beavers. They can declare an emergency, they can trap a beaver, they have all kinds of authority. This was an attempt to execute a repair that would make everyone whole and not trap the beaver. It is in your power to make whatever decision is best. And if DEP says that stamped engineered plans are not required on a repair, I would respectfully request that you consider that in your decision.
Definitely.
I respect all the people, but I also respect that we should be following a constant thing. Either everybody does it or nobody does it, and it's just too much.
Andy, we don't have a number back from DEP.
We do.
Oh, we do? Okay, I didn't read that into the
Yeah.
record.
It came in after we did the
This
agenda.
is a repair, I mean,
So
we're
it's-
working on a structure.
It's
that's already there.
0561114.
Okay.
And do we have in DEP in writing that says they do not require?
It was a conversation with the circuit breaker at DEP, and I know Chuck, you've talked to them extensively trying to put the application together.
All right.
You want to see it? You want to see that? in writing?
No, we have to reopen it with the,
like to.
No, you're okay. You've got a DEP number, so you're okay.
okay, so anybody, we don't have any more questions on this table, then we can move it to public comment. Okay.
Go to questions.
We have a number, so we can,
Hi,
Hi,
Paul
Steve.
Tola, 63 Olden Street.
Okay.
I
Hi.
am the abutter that has the issue.
okay.
It needs to be addressed. This doesn't sound like it's gonna do anything. How many, is it just one that you're installing?
Yes.
Just one? So you're gonna go further back. You say the water level has dropped. Of course it's dropped. It hasn't rained. It's the summer, it's the fall. Of course it's gone
Before
down.
that, this
It was
was
dropped
You know.
a few months back
Yeah, months
because
ago.
the dam
Was
was
breached.
broken.
I've been out there.
Down by
Nobody,
2
I
feet.
mean, you've been going back there, like you said, and breaching it. Why are you doing that?
I haven't done it
I know, I'm just
for-
asking the question, then why were you doing it?
to keep you happy, actually,
To keep me happy?
As-
to keep
as
the
much as
water
keep
level
everything.
at
So
a
obviously,
certain
there's a
level.
water level issue.
Well,
You've been out
Not-
there
it isn't.
breaching it, and you're telling everybody else you can't, and you're building a fort with the sticks. I have an email from the state board saying that you were supposed to stop. So
That's
what
right.
gives, so why did you keep going out there doing it? It doesn't make any
let's
sense.
get off track here.
I
Bill.
haven't
not-
been
I'm not-
there
I-
in a year,
This issue
sir.
needs to be addressed, and this doesn't sound like it's gonna get,
And
it's
the
not
point
gonna
is
get
that
addressed.
The Board of Health came out and told you you had nothing wrong with your sewer system and there was no danger to your property. They've told you there's no danger to mass flooding on your property. There would have to be a luge like we've never seen
I've
before.
heard
okay?
this, yes.
And there's not a problem like happened when they flooded across the street and it got the neighbor's house and that was a litigation that was because that was a problem. This is on the other side of the road. There is a siltation right beside your property that holds water that is 3 feet above anything the beavers have done. If there is any flooding, it is due to that body of water not the one 3 feet lower.
It's a man-made property.
It is,
It's
the
a
whole
dr-
thing's a
but it's
bog, you're
it's a
right,
drain-
it's
it's-
absolutely, it is a man-made property.
So it's not natural. I don't.
I never said
it's-
it was,
Well, people have said,
not me,
well,
I just said it wasn't.
it doesn't
to him.
make sense. It's a drainage. The town moved the center, so the center can drain down through there and it can
Into that
flow.
siltation
So, yeah,
that they
so it
built.
could flow all the way out through Swampy Brook and out to the
And it
herring
still
run and
flows.
so on and so
Flows
on.
downhill. They made a siltation pond abutting your property almost. That
It
is the
doesn't
highest
flow
water,
because the
that's the
beavers-
highest body of water.
All right, well, I mean, I'm not gonna be able to
Your
talk.
property
So-
is 3 feet higher than the
This
body of water
doesn't
you're
sound
talking
like it's
about.
gonna.
Rick, we need to, okay, so we need to keep this to public comment. We're not gonna get into a debate on whether or not this is a resource area or a man-made structure, because what happens is nature takes it back. Even if you have, like, say, a cranberry bog, that can be construed as a resource area
Mm-hmm.
because the nature comes back and it's no longer disturbed, so it's there. We know you have wildlife there,
Mhm.
so that's not under question,
Nope.
right? And we know you have water there, and we know that the water levels have changed, and we're not going to argue or get into any sort of debate about how it was done, because we don't have any substantiated evidence as to how it happened, and it's just not what we do here at this table. So you have expressed concern about the solution that's being proposed. Can you please explain to me why you feel that it is not adequate?
Well, if they're saying that the water level's down, I mean, it's how far you're gonna go down. Nobody knows how far.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you're still just guessing. Everything's still a guess. No one's been out there to see how far it's gonna go down.
What's the problem with it being a water
Why
retention?
can't it go back to its natural way,
There is
how
no
it was?
natural, like we just said.
So
there
there
is
was
no
so there
natural.
was no roads that went around or anything like that? People weren't able to?
There
I
were
mean,
dikes, there were
so-
bogs,
So
they
people used to be
flooded
able to
them
walk
every year to
around
harvest
there,
them.
and now you can't walk around there. Why can't you
So
bring
it's
it back
about
to that
walking
level?
around a place, not about what's hurting your property.
No,
So
no,
I-
because it's only gonna keep
I feel it
coming.
is about walking around, and you've lost certain things that you had as a long
All right,
time.
Okay,
I
but-
can't
but
talk to him anymore.
what
I mean,
happens on public property is like, we are providing care and custody for this property, and we want to make sure that we are providing assurances by either approving or denying this project. If you feel that this project requires further research or some sort of an ecological restoration to provide peace and resiliency and everything that you have outlined as a concern for your specific property that's next door, then that's another conversation that needs to be had. But for now, we have to see what works in the immediate, because that is just so much more than what we are here to talk about today.
Okay.
It is, though, because an ecological restoration project can take years to put together, and right now, we're trying to come up with a viable solution to prevent you from having presumed overflow onto your property.
Which I
So,
haven't seen any of.
so if you don't find it satisfactory as in a butter, and on our side, we are looking at the Wetlands Protection Act, and we have feedback from DEP that this is something that we don't have to submit a formal notice of intent for, then I guess if I were in your situation, I'd just be like, why not try? You know?
No, I want something done, but it just doesn't, nobody seems to know how deep it's gonna be, how low it's gonna be.
Well, that's what we would like to do, is we'd like to go on site and see if it's gonna be adequate or not for the circumstances.
It'll
Because
be
if it is
no
too low,
higher than it was when I was maintaining it, which was over a year ago now,
Yeah, well,
and not
Okay.
just for the record.
Which is partially over that road.
I
just don't know
have
how
not changed that level
who
like
gave you
somebody else
permission to
did.
maintain it? Who gave you permission to maintain it?
The
We're getting
state,
back off track
When?
again.
that is not
who
what
do
we're
you
here to
think
talk
brought
about.
the state down there? I'm the
All
one
right.
that called them to come down.
Okay, so I
And-
suppose,
It's not on your property. It doesn't interfere with anything on your property. It's on
So-
town property.
with all due
I agree.
respect, Gino, do you have anything to say, Mr. Campbell? So with all due respect, I think that maybe we don't have enough information and we need to take a site visit, and I don't know if anybody has a motion, but I don't think that we can make a decision based off of the information that's been given and the concerns that are being brought to the table. That's just my opinion.
I still make a motion to close.
She wants to talk.
You can, yep.
Tracy Marino, Could you possibly make a vote pending the site visit? Could you make a vote tonight instead of pushing this off for another month and then coming back to vote again? And then backing up just a little bit about the maintenance question, the maintenance, it would be done by the DPW. There'd be a maintenance schedule set up and they would be responsible for that. So that wouldn't be any sort of an issue. I just feel like this has been dragged out for so long. It's gone to the Board of Health, the health agent, the select board, it's been to conservation. I just think that perhaps you make a vote pending whether it would be something that could be done with your site visit. I just-
I mean, there's no
If
land
you're
protected
concerned-
here.
Withdraw that, I'd like to table it for,
Further discussion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue till the next meeting, which is
in October.
October 3rd, and in the meantime,
Get our ducks in order.
So you'll go
we'll
out for
go
a site
down there and
visit.
look at it
And then what happens if it's not,
and determine a height.
and if it's not acceptable, what happens
more
next?
than that, you know.
Well, hold on, if we're,
Acceptable to who? It's not
if we're
anybody's
making the
property,
motion,
it's
can't we
somebody's
just let
business.
Ms. Marino finish
sorry?
saying what she has
It's
to
not
say?
anybody's property.
I just,
My question was, what happens next if it's not?
Applicable to who? I mean, it has to be applicable to nature. Nobody owns that property
On the
that are
table.
around it. It's town property.
So you're saying it's unnecessary is what my question is?
Second,
Okay. Thank you.
all right, thank
You
you.
need to vote.
So we have a motion to continue.
Yeah.
All in
We have
favor?
a second.
Aye.
Aye.
I believe we needed, next public hearing, we need information on a number of subjects
Yeah.
that were brought up here tonight.
Also, I'd like to revisit the past, and have records from Lisa, state, and from the wells and
We
the,
can talk about, let the chair have a conversation with me about what information is required for the next public hearing.
I think we should share with the chair what we think we need.
Well, you're more than welcome to do that, but we have other public hearings we need to get to.
yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
All right, so, so say, all right, so we didn't actually finalize anything. So, all right, we're gonna move on to our next hearing. It is an ANRAD for 27 Corporate Park Drive, SE 561112. Hi, Brad.
Good evening, members of the
Hey,
commission.
Brad. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I think we can keep this fairly quick. Maybe you can
Yeah.
focus on some of your other things. This is just a snapshot of the site plan, so you can hold it.
Sorry to keep you.
Well, no, I'm just,
We're catching
yeah,
up.
yes. We've submitted an ANRAD application to confirm the location of bordering vegetated wetlands at 27 Corporate Park. I just so you have it. Yes, that's just, I just took a snapshot of the 2436, so you didn't have to pull out the full plan. So this is a property that's at the end of Corporate Park Drive. We were in front of the commission a couple of years ago for detention basin maintenance on this property and to the northeast. There is a bordering vegetated wetland that's located in the west side of the property. We've delineated that. I've highlighted it in the green on the left-hand side of your image of your sheet. There's a 100-foot buffer zone that extends off of that. There are no other resource areas that we're looking to confirm. We're looking to confirm with the commission the location of the bordering vegetated wetland. We do have a DEP file number, and we have notified abutters, and we're going to open it to the commission. And I've given you just an aerial image in that bottom, just so you can kind of reference the overall property.
Works nice.
Yes.
Thank you. Did we have anybody go on site to take a look at this or anything like that?
Well, you typically with ANRADs, you will ask for
We'll ask
peer
for,
review.
yeah, that's, I mean, it's very clear, Brad. that's-
No, I understand that's a process, and we're ready for it when,
It's a big
if that's what you
property.
decide.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? I don't have any questions.
No? A motion for peer review.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, thank you. I'll
you.
coordinate with you.
Yeah,
and-
coordinate
and-
with me.
Yes, okay, great.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. You're free.
They all go like that.
Okay. Did I do the process right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no decision was made. so
Yeah, I
you're-
know. Okay. I was just like,
You're good to go.
I missed something. Okay. So, now we are moving on to our request for determination of applicability for 197 Water Street. Do we have any representatives thereof, or therefore? Right. Please state your name and, you're the
My name is
representative.
Thomas Tremblay. I'm going to be the representative tonight for Charles Wright, the applicant and property owner.
How you doing? I'm Eric Marshall. I represent the general contractor. We're going to be doing the work over there.
Okay.
But you all see this? Is it easier for me to move it one direction?
Bob, can you see it? I'm just
I
asking.
also, I have print-offs too, if, would that be easier?
We love printouts, just don't trip on them.
Sure.
We've all done that.
Might be easier to see on here
Thank
than
you.
when I point to it.
Yeah, totally.
Much better.
So, the reason we're asking for the RDA is Charles Wright, last year on December 18th, had a fallen tree hit his house. It created a large hole in the top of the house, causing interior flooding and damage. The house currently is condemned. It is not livable. It has no occupancy. Tonight, we're coming with the first step of the project, which we would like to demolish the existing structure, leaving the foundation to be built upon at a later date. Currently, we have a erosion control, which will follow the existing lawn area of the property. We were able to find a wetland to the rear of the property from Mass Graphic Information Systems. We will have a stockpile area outside of the 100-foot buffer to the northern or to the northwestern portion of the property. And we would like to also be able to drain some of the water that's accumulated through the hole in the roof over multiple rainstorms and the hole being there. There's a lot of mold inside and there's a lot of water standing at the bottom. We'd like to be able to drain that out and take all the moldy debris from the building off the property.
You're talking about in the dwelling site?
Yeah, in the dwelling site, there's,
Inside of the foundation?
yes, there's currently standing water within there at the moment.
And the foundation, this isn't conservation, the foundation is structurally sound and still
Yes,
good?
the
When was
foundation is
original
structurally
house built?
sound. I'm sorry?
When was the original house built?
62,
I do not have that on.
I think.
Is it block stone or
62.
cement?
I believe
Yeah,
it's a cement foundation.
poured cement foundation.
Full
Yeah,
cement
yeah,
foundation?
Yeah, the foundation's in great shape. It's just
Why it's still there.
the existing, timber frame structure is just completely, the collar ties pushed out and the front wall pushed out, so, yeah, we're just looking to start the first phase, demolish the timber frame structure.
Can I read there's 4 feet of water in the basement?
So at one point.
I don't know who said that. That's-
Jack.
Yeah,
Jack.
that's incorrect.
Yeah.
There's
Oh.
probably 18 inches of water in
Is
the
that
basement.
seepage or is that from the roof collapse?
So
Collapse.
it would be from a rainstorm coming through the roof.
Yeah, just
Ultimately, it has to get to the bottom of the
accumulation.
structure,
Yeah.
so it just sits on the
Yeah.
basement floor.
Yeah.
If you look at it, the entire front of the house, basically,
So-
I'd say there's a 16-foot section that's almost open.
Once
Oh,
it's an
yeah,
open
Yeah.
the water flows
foundation,
in.
It's
Yeah.
coming right.
Gotcha.
What's that?
once it's an open foundation, what are you gonna do to make sure it doesn't become a mosquito pit and breed mosquitoes and hold water and all that?
Well, we're gonna continue maintaining the water level, that's the
Yeah,
idea.
we'll keep pumping it
Yeah.
out. Essentially, we will come back with a notice of intent for the actual construction of the house.
Okay.
When you
Following
pump
this.
it out, do you mean set up a pump that's gonna pump whether you're there or not? Do you mean show up and pump it out, or do you have someone?
We'll set up a system that it continuously pumps, basically, so we don't have
So you'll have
to,
electrical, you'll have temporary electric on site?
Well, that's
Or you'll
the
have-
plan. We've been looking at generators right now. That's how we
All
pumped
right,
it
so-
previously, when we originally went in to remove all the contents of the house.
So this RDA is exclusively for the demolition of
It's
it?
for
That's
demolition
correct.
only.
Demolition
Okay.
only,
So you'd
All
have
right.
a generator that would come on to turn on the pump type of thing?
exactly,
You got it.
yeah.
What is the actual distance from the wetland to the building, please? Nearest point?
The nearest
No, it's
point, would be,
15 feet.
I don't have a dimension on here, but it's approximately about, 30 to 35 feet.
The closest point to the
To
wetland
the-
line is probably about 15 feet.
From the blue line?
right here.
From the outer, like the closest corner of the existing foundation line to the actual wetland itself
Yeah.
is probably about 15 feet.
No,
I
a
would
lot of
say.
people, it's
Well-
been since the fifties been built, say there are a bunch of gardeners there, and there were things that were stored in that cellar over years that have contaminated that. Have you checked to see the quality of the water you're pumping out?
I have not been on site, I can say that.
Well, the quality of the water it's pretty
I
clear.
wouldn't drink it,
Yeah, I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
drink that,
Not that.
you
no,
know?
but,
So maybe.
yeah, it's not like it's mud or anything like that,
No,
or
I'm
silt,
saying,
yeah,
I'm
it's,
more concerned with what may have been stored in the cellar over the years that may have leached out into it that you're not aware of.
Yeah,
And you're pumping
yeah.
it into a wetland, that's what I'm concerned about.
yeah,
There can
yeah.
be simple tests, I'm sure that can be done before.
Rick, I believe whatever we pump into is gonna have to be a filtered
Right,
pump, because it's, any cellar, what type of a heating system?
It's forced hot air gas.
gas,
Okay, well,
they never
that's
had oil.
one
No,
plus anyway.
there's no
Well,
oil,
that's
yeah,
a
there's
big
no
plus.
oil there,
That-
yeah.
That's a plus.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
a
mean,
plus.
it's pretty clear. I was in there with the original team when we removed all the contents of the home. You know, and then we pumped it at that point in order to be able to get in there because there was standing water from what had happened. We had to get the contents out that were salvageable, and then we had to get the rest of the contents out just because it was sitting in standing water in the basement. So, but to me, the water is, it almost looks pretty crystal clear, you know, it doesn't,
Yeah.
obviously, I don't have a water sample with me, so I can't say that
Yeah,
that
we're
water
not scientists
doesn't
anyway,
have
we
something
couldn't
in it,
look. You
but,
can't really, things, just because they're clear don't mean you could.
I understand
actually
that.
Deal with it, but.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
indicator.
Yeah, right, absolutely, yeah.
Is that dotted red line silt socks?
Yeah, so that'll
Yeah.
be the proposed silt
Okay,
sock on
and you got the street right in the front side, so
correct.
that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Septic system, where is it?
It's right off the center of the back of the house. Do you have that printed out, actually?
How close is that to the wetlands?
I'm sorry.
And are you gonna redo the septic system?
So when we come back with the notice of intent, there will have to be a new septic system. It's required. through the
And
Board of
then,
Health.
at that point, you'll dig it up, fill it, and
Yeah,
put in a
that
new
one will be
system.
decommissioned. There'll be
All
a
right,
new
so-
one proposed, which we will go to Board of Health for.
So that's down the road, but the way it's set up now with the silt sock around it, and the
Is the silt
street
sock
right
there
out
now,
front,
first of all?
and the
the silt sock
stockpile
there
area
now?
near
Like
the
to see
street.
one there
septic
now?
moved to
There's
the
no
side,
silt
or-
sock there
or
currently.
Like if it's in the back, but that's Board of Health, so that's up to them.
Yeah,
I also, they're using the wetland line off of the,
Mass Geographic Information System. When we come back, we'll
that's
have a
about
plan.
as accurate as,
Yeah, it's
I
not,
think
it's
it
not
need-
the most
Yeah.
accurate, but we'll come back with a wetland delineation when we come back for the notice of
Yeah,
intent.
I don't have it. There's a great photo. I took a photo of it when we were in there looking at the original septic system. It's in the whatever office is over there with the septics. And it says, I think it's probably, I don't know, 30 feet off or so,
and this,
20 feet.
this is strictly for the demolition only.
Strictly for the
Yep.
demolition
Strictly for the
only of
demolition
the
of the building.
timber frame structure, not the concrete foundation.
Leaving the degenerating structure would
No, no.
probably be more detrimental to the wetlands than,
Save a
really
little
would be.
time, Nicole, can I believe that if the wetland line is established, that if we install a 12-inch silt sock 1 foot off of the established wetland line with a 3-foot-high snow fence or construction fence on the inside of the hay bales to keep material from getting into the wetland area, and a statement from the homeowner that says he will not apply for a occupancy permit down the road until the wetland has been accepted by the Conservation Commission as not having been altered.
Sure, we can give you
And
that
we're
statement
gonna
now.
go forward with it,
With the demolition.
with the demolition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be going forward with the demolition. The other thing, one thing I left off my little statement, when we do your construction fence or snow fence, whichever you use, poles have to be at least no more than 12 foot apart, or else the whole thing will just cave in. It's gotta be there to protect from demolition, and you're gonna need it down the road when you build at
Sure.
that tight an area. And we've gotta keep everything out of that wetland area that we can.
So I guess I have a question then. So that, the red
Yeah.
dotted line is the proposed silt sock and limit of work.
Yes.
So that is actually further out away from the wetland line, and I like that better.
Yeah, that's where
Because then
the
you're not-
existing lawn would be. We're
Yeah.
covering the edge of where the
Okay.
lawn would be.
Bob, would that be okay if they work within, as proposed, the existing lawn area? Okay, because we don't want to bring it closer to the wetlands.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to close?
Did you get an idea what we were doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure that when you're requiring that, are you requiring the snow fence and the hay bales when they do the NOI? You're requiring that for the RDA and the demolition?
For the demolition.
RDA and demolition.
RDA and demolition,
Okay, so that'll be in the conditions.
Yep.
Great.
And that any pumped water be.
and this is an
at least
RDA, so we
put
have
through
to
some sort of
indicate.
Filter.
filtering
indicate
device,
what
to-
determination.
Something to,
-3.
approve,
Yes.
to make sure there's a problem.
Okay.
Maybe a timer on it, so if it's not necessary to wake up the neighborhood, say at 3 in the morning when they're coming on, that you don't, just keep this alternative with people.
Do you know who seconded your motion?
We actually have to adjust the motion to make it the -3 determination.
Well,
No, no,
first
you're
we have to,
closed.
we
Oh,
have to
sorry.
close. it.
Okay, sorry.
Second.
So discombobulated. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, well, now let's move on. Motion for,
Motion for -3 determination and stipulations as proposed in this meeting for the drainage with the 12-inch silt socks and hay bales
No,
No.
silt fence.
and no silt socks?
yeah, silt socks,
Yeah.
no hay bales.
Well, what are you gonna use when you're the pumping?
Silt fence.
Oh,
So your silt sock is as indicated on the plan submitted?
So there's no hay bales for a
A filter
drainage filter?
when they pump.
or whatever, they can do whatever they want for the, I don't think we want to say, whatever, they need a filter.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they're gonna pump
We
into,
can say
We're
hay
talking
bales
about
if you
gotta
want.
pump
protecting the
direct.
But
It's
we
clear,
also
it's
were
clear
looking for
water,
a-
so.
They're taking
fence
any
too.
refuse water like off-site, so that's not gonna impact
Oh,
the wetland
it's
area.
not going
No,
into
so we're just
the-
talking about
okay.
the erosion controls as the condition that we wanna set forth with this motion.
Okay,
Now,
Well-
where did we decide we wanted the hay bale, the silt sock?
So they proposed the silt sock along the limit of work, which is the red dotted line, and then we also wanted to add the silt fence.
and the red dotted line
That
is
has
the
12
grass
inch.
line?
That's
Safety every
correct.
12
Yeah, it's the
inches.
edge of where
Yeah,
the
previously
existing lawn is.
disturbed grass line, so.
Pre-existing
Well,
lawn
that's
area.
a good idea.
Yep.
Good, further away.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let's redo the motion. We motion to close, we gotta,
We need a second.
do we have a
You've already
second?
closed the public hearing.
Right.
Yeah,
You made a
so,
motion to issue a
we need a
negative
second.
determination.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, sorry.
You've got the conditions as follows: 12-inch silt socks at the limit of work as per the plan submitted. All water removed will be filtered at degree. And what's
The snow fence,
Snow fence.
snow or construction fence at the silt sock, inside of the silt sock line, on the high side of the silt sock line,
Sure.
to keep
Okay.
any debris from getting into it.
Okay.
All right.
And just use
Alright.
common sense on what you're pumping on, try to do what you've been doing. It seems to
Good
work.
practice.
Sounds good.
All in good practice. Can congratulations, you may move forward with your demolition.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Please note that any person aggrieved by this decision has the right to appeal within 10 business days. Please contact our office or DEP if you need assistance. The commission shall have 21 calendar days beginning tomorrow to issue. No, that's not appropriate because it said request for determination. Never mind. You are all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great night. You too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just reading out loud at this point. Okay, we have another one of those. All right, so I would like to move to, yeah, well, another RDA. Give them a second to scoot out of the way.
Water Street.
All right. Yeah. It is now 8:35. We would like to open the request for determination of applicability for 50 Cranberry Lane. If we have representatives here, please come up, state your name and the reason for your attendance, and thank you so much for your patience.
Hi, my name's Adam Martinez. I inherited the property from my mother.
Sorry to hear that, and congratulations.
Kevin Wareham, owner of Apollo Construction, the contractor looking to replace an existing deck on the property.
So, replacement of an existing deck, are you using the existing substructure to perform this work? Or are you doing a complete replacement?
Complete replacement in the exact footprint.
Okay, let's see here.
When you say complete replacement, what are you using for ground structure? In other words, is there something there you're going on, or are you redigging it, you're putting in a foundation?
No, new footings and new frame as well.
New footings?
Yes.
Meaning, what
Concrete
type of
piers.
footings?
Sonotubes, concrete piers.
Where the wetlands are, because I can't read this.
Okay. I'm just gonna take
When
a
you
look at this for
do
one
your
second.
sonotubes, you will take great care that the material excavated is spread evenly and does not get into the wetland and
Yes, of course.
all of the unnecessary things, yeah.
What kind of erosion control are you planning on implementing for this project?
Essentially, whatever you prefer, but I had pictured silt fence and silt socks starting at the neighboring property and essentially wrapping all the way around to the street. I do have a rough, very crude diagram. I don't know if you have a copy.
And
Red representing erosion control, blue is the existing structure to be replaced, and green is the material source.
You said one word that we do not,
Oh, okay.
you said one word we don't like, is silt fence.
Oh,
We don't like silt sock or
Silt sock.
even.
that area where you plan on putting the silt sock is previously disturbed? The silt sock, where you, the green.
Oh, the
line
green,
you have is
the green would
silt.
be
Erosion
materials.
control is the silt, that would be where the silt sock would.
Oh, we have different colors. I'm sorry.
Oh,
That's what it
oh,
is.
okay.
Yes.
Is that in a previously disturbed area? Is that grass or what's there?
It's all grass.
Yeah.
That's all grass, so, and where is, the wetlands from there?
It is, it's right on the pond, Furnace Pond?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
Furnace Pond.
because this is
It's
all-
waterfront.
This is all I have.
I'm sorry, I wasn't,
It's maybe 30 feet from the pond.
Okay.
There's a small retaining wall made of stone and a set of stairs that goes down to the
Oh,
pond.
I do
see-
have some
I
pictures
see
if that's
stairs.
helpful.
Yes.
All right.
The house was, under my understanding, grandfathered in.
So the stairs go down to the actual water level or the,
Not from the deck. There's a set of stone stairs that goes down to a stone patio.
I see
type
that.
area.
Here's a little clearer. Yeah, the water is past the hut there. Sorry, I should have got a wider shot.
yeah, it's always good to show us what's going on there.
Basically,
There are a few more if you'd like to look.
the deck has become a safety hazard.
Okay,
It's
so,
on off the house, basically.
so that's the deck you're gonna remove.
Is the
Oh,
deck,
okay.
a stay deck, or is it gonna be enclosed?
No, it'll be,
It's exactly the same, is my understanding, just new material.
Don't forget it.
The erosion control, does that go along a, like, is there pre-existing lawn?
Yeah. You said that.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm just looking at this.
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
nothing else we can do.
pretty standard.
I don't have any more questions.
So the actual wetland line is the edge of the pond, what you
Yeah.
have here, okay, so it doesn't, it should say pond,
Pond
I
is
got you.
the pond, it's like maybe.
Oh, yeah, it does say Burners Pond,
No
it does say,
question,
it, I just can't read it.
Just-
Second.
I have one question. Where's the pond on this? Is it?
It's
here?
right at the,
Are these the stairs going down to the pond?
Yeah, the actual pond is
that left-hand line on the drawing.
Got it.
right here,
Okay,
yeah.
Great, thanks.
It's actually the left-hand line right on the drawing.
Oh, I can almost read it.
Yeah, I can almost see the Burners Pond.
Oh, it says upland wetlands, I think. Yeah, wow, I can read it with my
there's-
glasses on.
All right.
It says Burners Pond too.
Well, they're doing an emergency repair within pre-existing lawn area, not expanding the deck and their stockpiling areas and impervious surface slash previously disturbed area, so
Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
I got a motion on close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Who seconded that?
You know what?
I did. Bob made the
Was
motion.
it in it?
So it was a request for determination, so we need to
Negative,
provide our
I move
determination.
that we issue a -3.
Do
negative 3.
Three.
With what- anything we had said at
Talked
the
about.
meeting.
specific erosion
Yeah.
controls.
Like erosion control.
Silt,
But we didn't-
sock,
did we-
and hay bale.
Did we specify 12-inch silt sock?
No,
Oh.
that's a nice flat area.
So
The other
just
one was
a-
just because of where we were working so tight.
No, what size?
Yep, the last one, we had a tight spot, that's why we wanted to go. a
That's
little
why we
bigger.
needed 12-inch.
10 is fine, 10 is fine. On
Okay.
a flat grass area.
So -3 determination with a 10-inch silt sock and hay bales.
Hey, Bill, so what?
That was the last one.
10-inch
Sorry.
silt, 10-inch
Okay.
silt sock.
10-inch silt sock.
Okay, and that's it.
Okay.
Good. Fair. All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Who seconded
Second,
that?
second.
Second.
Almost said it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please note that any person aggrieved by this decision has the right of appeal within 10 business days. Please contact our officer DEP if you need assistance. And then I'm not reading the second part because this was an RDA, so be it. All right, you're all set?
All right,
Free to
thank
move
you.
about?
Thank you.
There
Have
you
a
are.
great night.
Thank you. All right, so now we're moving on to, let's see. It is 8:42. We would like to open a hearing for the notice of intent at 65 Elmer Street, SE 56-1113. Could I please have anyone here who's here to discuss the meeting come up and state their name and their reason for attending?
Yes, hi. I'm Anne Marie Patrico with Environmental Partners Group, and we're working with the town on a new source water supply at the Edgewood Bog site. And I was told that there's no visual aids here, so I brought a figure. Which I can put here. It's helpful to see the parcel.
Do we have an easel? Okay, if you'd like to put it up against the podium, I'm sure we'd be able to see it from there. Yes, thank you. It's
Well, the
okay, don't
people
worry.
that can't see the audience, so you'll have to get up to look at.
Yeah, people in the audience will have to get up and look at it if they have
I can
interest.
turn it around, but just to give you the background on the site. So the site's located off Elmer Street and Blueberry Lane.
Oh,
And
do have something.
this site was permitted back in 2007 as a water supply site. And the site was never brought online. And at this point, the town does not own or control the required wellhead protection area, the Zone 1. So we did exploration this past year around the site, and we're looking to put a well field in the property, which has a 250-foot wellhead protection area. So this note is really just for the installing the production wells and the testing. In June, we submitted the request for site exam and pump test approval to Mass DEP, and they approved the site as a potential water supply site, and they approved our pump test proposal. So there's cranberry bogs around the site. It's conservation area, except this area is preserved for water supply. And it's mostly cranberry bogs with some, just some vegetated wetlands in a few areas, but it's really the cranberry bogs that are the issue. The initial well was permitted right here, so we're looking to install 4 production wells at that location. The wells are going to be 75 feet deep, about 75 feet deep. They're 12-inch wells. But because it's a well field, we can only draw the wells down to 28 feet below ground surface. So there's minimal drawdown, and the wells are about 50 feet apart. So we'll be drilling these 12-inch wells. They're 12-inch wells, and then conducting a 5-day pump test that has been approved by DEP. And then the issue with the pump test is where do we discharge the pump test water. Again, it's drinking water. It should have less than 1 NTU of turbidity. They've already done water quality testing here, and it's really iron and manganese would be the only issues we see there, yeah. So we're looking at potential discharge sites for the pump test water. One would be over here. We're trying to get as far away from the wells. And the other one would be down in this corner. And we could use one or both discharge sites. An alternative would be up here, but trying to get as far away from the wells as we can. When they discharge to these sites, we've done a lot of this work where we've discharged to the Connecticut. Sorry about that. We've done a lot of this kind of work where we've discharged to the Connecticut, to the Charles River or the National Seashore, and we'll discharge the pump test water onto poly to limit any erosion, and then put straw bales around there to collect any silt or dissipate flow as it comes off the poly. And during development of the wells, we usually discharge the water into a 55-gallon drum to let the sediment settle, and then it overflows onto poly, and then would just discharge to this area of the pond. And this pond is, it's a man-made pond. Probably like 50 years ago it was dug, presumably for irrigation of the cranberry bogs. The cranberry bogs are obviously no longer active, so. In this pond? So again, it's all drinking water and, you know, should be low turbidity. And there are existing monitoring wells around the site. We may have to replace one of these down here or one on the other side of the pond, but we don't expect, they're at locations where there are already wells, but we may be able to find the existing ones. Those are just 2-inch wells.
I've seen them.
Yep, so that's what this phase is really. Install the production wells, develop them, do the pump test. We're looking to do the work, the driller's available in October. So that's when we plan to start installation of the wells, develop them, order the screens. The pump test would probably be December, January timeframe.
The purpose of this water resource is for?
It's for the town. Again, as you've heard, the town is abandoning well 1, reducing their capacity. And this well field, we're looking at pumping about 700 gallons a minute, so it's a good well field, provides the redundancy and the resiliency that the town needs. And the other thing is the well is located in a different drainage basin than most of the town's wells, so it spreads out the town's sources. And it's a less
Are they
stressed
sealed
basin.
wells that are going to be pumping the whole head up, or are they submerged pumps that are going to be pumping out of the well?
They're submersible pumps.
Okay.
So the
That's why
wells are,
The drawdown is 28 feet.
that's
I got you.
required
That's how-
for the
I know
well
how that
field.
works. I got you.
Yeah, and based on, we did test wells at these locations, and it looks like the deeper section, 60 to 75 feet, is the aquifer material, and then it's overlain by fine grain material, so it's, you know, semi-confined down there, so limiting the drawdown. And the test that they did in 2007 showed, you know, little to no drawdown in the cranberry bogs. At the time, there was a lot of water in the cranberry bogs. Now they've been abandoned so long.
So you would monitor your drawdown with those other wells also involved in that test?
Yeah, so the other wells, and I do have a figure, there
Yeah.
are probably, you
Yeah.
know, 15 wells out here that we would use those to measure the distance drawdown during the pump test
Okay.
to get a good idea of the aquifer characteristics.
So you get information as you go?
Yeah.
On another subject, I missed, does the town own all of this land?
The town, it's conservation land around the area that is water supply land.
It was purchased for a USDA grant, and we have an easement for the development of water supply, along with a portion on the other side of Elm Street.
Does NRCS have any liens, have anything to do with any of the land?
Does who?
NRCS.
National Resource Defense Council.
Not that I'm aware. My understanding is just USDA land, and we were given easement on it for development water supply. Back in the 90s, the town purchased a lot of these cranberry bogs through grants. They've done studies throughout most of them, and this was the most viable source.
I understand the town did purchase, but some of the purchases were with NRCS easements on them.
So we have to be held to
And-
the federal government standards.
And if that's the case, then I believe NRCS would have to release this. I mean, I'm getting into a technical, but I know NRCS owns easements on almost all of the bogs that were bought up back in that period of time.
Yeah, and the figures that we saw had this as, you know, town water supply land with conservation land surrounding it. So most of it was, and as Dan said, there's some over here on the other side.
Yeah, but that still doesn't answer, conservation
doesn't
land
reveal.
and NRCS are basically hand in hand at the same time. You just gotta know who has the legal part of it.
It's the process for approvals, because it could go beyond us.
And I guess we could check, this well was permitted, did that go, what kind of permitting did it go through? I don't think it had to do all that, yeah, it's been approved before.
And then, part of
Yeah.
why I'm asking that is, we have dealt with some minor problems in the conservation in this general area, and have had to go to NRCS with the problem, not with the problems, but keeping them informed of the problems. And that's why I'm asking if we're having this beforehand, after. And do you have any idea what?
Well, generally, they come and they do an audit, they do a walkthrough, I've done the walkthrough, or I've gone to meet them down there a couple of times, and then through the USDA program. So it's generally just, stewardship of the land, more or less.
Yeah, and I understand that, but if we're issuing orders
Well, I don't
on a
know.
piece of property that somebody else already has an easement on,
Yeah, but I don't know, what have you done with the permitting and DEP and understanding? I mean, we have ownership of the property, even though we
Yeah, this is a funny situation.
Yeah.
You own the property, but you can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Or I shouldn't say,
Yeah.
you are restricted of what you can do with it.
are you aware of any restrictions that came up on this? I mean, it's gotten pretty far for a pump test for to not be allowed based on the easements and the USDA law.
That map I had asked you for before, I thought it showed what land we were allowed to operate. I think that's what you had with it when you sent it to me months ago.
Yeah.
Before we,
Seemed like we crossed that bridge already.
I believe so. I believe there was a
Yeah.
figure that showed that, and it has gone through DEP through the site exam, so they've looked at all the details of the site and the conservation, and how far they took it, but they approved it, you know.
There might be grant funding available for this under NRCS. So, just, it's worth a look.
So for the
This is for water
development, we are
quality.
looking for an SRF loan for the construction of the actual treatment. This is just for permitting the wells right now, just get them in the ground. We already got ARPA funds for the first half of this project.
Okay.
We got 390 or 370.
370
And then we're
of
almost
ARPA
matching it
funding.
because we see that potential to double the water.
Yeah.
And I understand, just for an instance,
We should
in order
check
for us
it.
to mow the grass on the dikes up there, we have to have approval from NRCS. So, I mean, if you're putting a well in, and all of that,
You'll have to also-
I would assume that is a higher step than mowing the grass on the banks.
So I suppose what it sounds like is we need additional information in order to make our decision because we
Well, I
don't
just
have any
throw all
sort of
these
approval
laws
letter.
in, but I mean, it's something that at least ought to be looked into if it doesn't.
Some sort of statement
And-
saying
Yeah,
that
so
them
you
from
know
the
what you're doing, but it doesn't open the door, so.
Yeah, no, I don't know if, like, we had to submit an early notice to the environmental monitor. Do they track, you know, work that's in the environmental monitor? Do they have,
Unfortunately, this is one of those situations, you have a left hand and a right hand, and they don't, either of them know what the other one is doing. This is what we've run into.
Sometimes
Okay,
neither
yeah.
hand knows what they're doing.
I have a question. You dug test wells, you did a pump test. Okay, earlier tonight, we had another project that's similar. I want to know, do you have a generator pad? Do you have a pump station and a chemical
So first we gotta
feed
get,
station? And
at Swanberg, that's already been permitted. They were able to get the permit approval off the test wells because we're looking for so much more water we need to put in the production.
okay, where are they going?
The actual treatment plant will be across the street on Elmer. Like I said, there's a map that shows an easement on the opposite side of Elmer Street.
Is that where I saw something about a discharge of 900 feet?
No, so
No,
that,
those are-
that's just for.
That's where the,
you're building
Yeah, so,
that?
yeah, so this is Elmer Street. I believe we have an easement over here, this flat land over here for the actual station.
oh, okay, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
there's no
Yeah.
work road over there.
Yeah, there's no-
So it'd be away from.
It's on a big peak.
Very-
that
It's all
over-
wetland,
There's a peak that over top of it
Okay.
too, right?
yeah.
I don't recall that. When was that proposed and
The original well was 2007, it was permitted.
what?
And the original well was
2007.
2007,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Preston and Sampson did that project too.
And
And
then,
then just kind of fell
Oh,
on the
okay.
wayside. And you only have, I think, 5 years to make it active.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
And then when we looked at it, like this parcel here was all developed at this point, so they couldn't get a 400-foot zone 1, so. at
right,
this
yeah,
point-
I found that a little confusing.
Yeah. Because it was so long.
I
Yeah.
understand that this is for well drilling, testing, and all, no construction.
No construction at this point.
That'll be
That'll
good.
be a different
Yeah, but first
application
we gotta
at a later
confirm
date.
it, we gotta final, yeah, confirm the water quality. Then you know how many gallons we can pump before we can even size any of that, you know, for pump size.
When you gonna hit
electrical.
28?
Yeah.
At what rate and all that?
Yeah, And we, like I said, we did a preliminary test that said, you know, 1 million gallons a day is pretty reasonable. for
I have
this
no
site.
problem with drilling or testing here because none of it's a permanent,
Right.
other than the wells are permanent, but I
Right.
mean, no permanent
We don't
connections
abandon
or
them.
anything else. And they'll be back later on with that. Again, provided it, I'd just like to make sure that you don't have a problem with the federal government and NRCS in any
We'll look into
way
that.
before we go too far down the road here.
Well, you can check and see, but I find it hard to believe that we're able to do the initial test wells without approval from them, or without, and they've been out there.
And it's been permanent before.
Yeah, it's been permanent.
But you know what it is, it's one of these.
The left hand and the right hand.
Do they know each other?
A lot of it go around.
Okay. Well, I mean.
During these tests now, you being the engineering company will be responsible to make sure that the area is kept in as close to original condition as possible.
Correct, yes. We'll have a representative out there.
Minus all the trash that's around the block.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
But yeah, we'll have oversight of the drilling, the testing, all of that.
I move we close.
Second.
Can we,
Yeah, we need to open up for the public.
can we
Close.
ask a couple of questions?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
residents.
Yeah.
Blueberry Lane.
Yep, so thank you so much for presenting and for
Thank
continuing
you.
the discussion. We'll open this up for public comment since we don't have any additional questions on this end.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I promise.
It's been a long day here at the office.
So the question, I guess, I'm not sure whether it's direct, my name is Stephen Pat, 42 Blueberry Lane, I live direct on, my house is directly across from the entryway to get to the wells.
And you signed the sign-in sheet, correct? Sorry.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so it's actually right over here. Yeah.
Super.
Everybody who would like to make a
So-
public comment, like, we need your contact information so that we can touch base with you if we need to.
Thank you.
I didn't use the map if you need it.
No, I don't need, I don't think I'll need the map, this will be, I won't waste a lot of time, so I promise you I'll do this. Do I need to do this before I speak?
No.
Oh, could you
No,
speak? Good.
you can promise to do it.
I promise.
Okay.
So I would imagine one of the first steps was to determine the drawdown of Stetson Pond. And what were the results of those tests? So I'm concerned, as are some of the residents, of what Stetson Pond will look like while we're pumping, after we pump 1 million gallons a day. Obviously, our home values are based on the fact that we're waterfront, and sand front isn't gonna help us very much in the long run. So what were the results of those tests?
So they did they had piezometers and staff gauges in the pond in 2000s. So they had staff gauges and piezometers in Stetson Pond when they did the testing in 2007, and they didn't see any drawdown in the pond. And our thought here, and this may be helpful, I don't have the figure up there, but the geology at that point, so down deep, is where the sand and gravel aquifer is, which is where we'll be sampling or pumping. And then it's overlain by silt and clay. So the pond is, I believe, about 45 feet deep. And these wells will be pumping down at 75 feet below ground. And so from about 60 up, there's fine grained material. We also have to, block off, so it doesn't get in the wells. But so it does have that. And we will have a staff gauge and piezometer in Stetson Pond when we do the pumping.
When you do the
So,
test pump?
When we do the pump
Okay.
test, yeah.
The pond
And so
at its
DEP will look at
deepest
that
is
too.
about 28 feet deep.
Okay,
So
That would surprise me if it was
Yeah,
40.
no.
Yeah, I
it
looked
is.
on a DEP map that
Well,
had
don't believe any of
bathymetry,
that
but
stuff.
About
Yeah.
that
who
pond
knows?
too is the actual beach area that's accessible by town residents is a very small grade, so it goes dry fast.
Okay, yep.
I mean, we now have, just because of natural conditions, I usually don't have any beach. I now have 14 feet of beach, and this is a regular summer, a little wet, a little dry, but this is a normal summer. So I'm worried that once we go online, and again, this is 2024 versus your information from 2007, I would think you'd want to have updated information before you did this, in just my opinion. We're working with old information.
Yeah. Well, and then the only way to know that is to pump it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing with our 5-day pump
Gotcha.
test.
Okay. So you'll be able to
We
tell,
will-
I'm sorry.
No, we have a stack gauge and piezometer set up. I can read. We'll have it either over here or over here, because the town has access down here. And I believe they have access on this side.
They do,
so,
where the dike
yeah.
is, right?
So we'll have a stack gauge and piezometer and equip it with a water level logger, so we'll get continuous water level measurements before the test, during the test, and after the test.
And will you be reporting that back to them so that the fine commission here can report that back to the residents? Will you be requiring that of them, or is that just me being curious?
DEP will definitely get it, that's part of the report.
DEP rules everybody.
And how will they let us know?
So,
I'm just curious, I just don't want to be in the dark.
It's
We were never
public.
given any
What
information
you're
that someone
doing
was
is
gonna be
public.
drilling.
Well, what you're doing is public information if people want it, right?
right.
And where would we get that?
And we'll put a notice in the environmental monitor when the pump test report is ready, and before DEP reviews it, they'll take public comment.
All right.
In the water department. It'll tell you where you can look at the receipt.
But no activity has taken place yet, so you received your abutters notifications as part of the process for this notice of intent being filed. So basically, they're trying to seek approval for those activities, and that's what your public
Yes, but
comment
no
is.
one notified us that someone was out there this past summer drilling. Nobody.
The only reason we knew is when
saw
the
the
trucks,
truck
well,
with the drill
when
head.
actually
Drilling.
DPW came out and cleared
No, but.
a wide swath.
Something's being done.
That was every bit of
Yeah,
safety
hey,
doesn't mean
Rick,
no.
let's,
Rick.
I'd like to have like one person at a time. I'll have you come to the podium to present.
Yeah, no, we didn't, we did not know. We were not given any notice whatsoever. There was
This is the first note.
the DPW, the first official notice, right, was all the water trucks, the environmental quality folks were out there, and and Dan and I have had this conversation, they made sort of a mess of things. That still remains to this day, as they went out to do some original testing. Which brings me to a sort of side point, but for you, Dan, since I live right across from the entranceway, as you know, and the first few days, maybe first couple of weeks after cars started to go back there, I brought that, I sent a couple of emails and a couple of phone calls, wondering if that was something that you were okay with cars going back there, because the fence had been torn down by DPW. I didn't get a response back, and so I went back there and suggested, because they were doing wheelies around the test wells, or whatever, donuts, those are those things. Yeah, you answered all my emails, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it was someone else.
So there were trespassers on the property?
I don't know if it's trespassers or not, it's public property, everybody goes back there to fish, nobody
Yeah,
swims, by
driving
the
is
way.
different from,
Nobody swims, right, just to clear that up. There isn't a single,
I thought they had a little
No.
party with a nice water slide every year.
they had a bike
No one's
slide.
supposed to go there.
So,
No vehicles.
there's no sign, there's no sign that says no vehicles, there's no signage at all. My point is I went out there a few times and suggested that the folks shouldn't be back there, it's a well site. We didn't want engine fluids and everything else around there. Most of the people left, they were kind and they left. Others, they were not so kind. So I've just gone back there, I don't go back there anymore. But up until this weekend, there were 7 cars and trucks and pickups out there, just driving around the wells, and I'm not sure that's something you want or don't want.
Yeah, we don't want them to damage them, for sure.
I didn't think so, so I thought maybe you want to put some sort of a fence there or something, but
Yeah, yeah, it's not within our purview, but you have that concern in your mind to make those
Yeah,
solutions.
so the original gate that came
come to
down,
light.
a tree, a dead tree had fallen onto it. The
Mhm.
DPW came down with a loader and literally ripped it up as soon as we got it. It
Yeah.
has to be replaced, so we're waiting until after we got the production rig in.
Makes sense. So
Okay.
my only concern, I don't want to take up any more time because other people need to speak. But my biggest concern is the fact that I'm nervous about the drawdown of Stetson.
Okay.
I'm very nervous about that. I don't want the value of my home to go down to, I've got waterfront property right now, and I want it to continue to be waterfront property, and I want to, yeah.
And there appears to be a question of the quality of the data that's at
From
least
my
in a
perspective, if you're
gentle
working
term
with
being presented.
2007 data, then you would probably want to ask them for some updated,
Yeah,
that's,
no,
that's just my thought.
Have a drawdown level.
So this project covers the testing and the project itself, so.
Wait a minute. This is, you're just doing testing now.
Yes,
You haven't,
it's been permitted.
you aren't ready to submit
Yeah.
any permanent type of thing. In other words, there'll be another set of hearings and submissions and all long before the,
Yeah, so we're just looking
the
to
pond
show
could
that
begin
it's,
to be pulled down.
we need to prove
Or
that it's
even
viable.
asked to be pulled down.
Yeah, we need to prove that it's viable. And even then, like, we have well 5, we're contingent, we can't pump that if the pond level drops to a certain level, because that is the Rockland pumps off of, Big City Pond. Well 1 used to have a restriction because of cold water fisheries, so all this data she collects and submits to DEP is then reviewed by their engineers to make sure we aren't gonna have a negative impact on the environment. Obviously, that doesn't do anybody any good.
And the only way to really know if you're gonna do it is you need to be able to pump enough water to see if there's an effect on Stetson Pond. And without these production wells, you'll never pump enough water. Like, we pumped 300 gallons a minute for about 6 hours, and we saw nothing that far away,
Would it be
We need-
right to assume that if these tests show that Stetson Pond went down to a mud hole while you're pumping, that DEP or anyone else would not give you permits to pump that water?
Yeah, they would. We can't
Sorry,
negatively
that's
impact
just
our
common,
resources.
common sense. In other words,
Right.
that's what
And
this
not
is
only that,
here
we,
for.
we don't really want the infiltration from surface water, that's why we went to 75 feet. Granted, we can only pump to 28 feet, but we went through the clay layer, hoping we don't have any infiltration from surface water. Because that's a whole nother ballgame in water treatment, surface water versus groundwater. That triggers all sorts of other treatment techniques and things. So
And the
we
other
want to
part-
avoid that.
The other part of that is that the resource areas actually protect the water resource and that quality, so it's kind of like an all-ensconcing thing. But we do want to provide an opportunity for other people from the public to provide their comment as well, so if, could we go by order of person who spoke up though, is that okay? Could I have, sir, in the front here, would you mind?
I'm just gonna jump on, comment about the pond, if that's okay, go ahead. No.
So you've expressed your concern, could you just come up and state your name and I'm sorry, just express your concern. I know, you can stretch, just like, stretch.
Daniel Walker, 34 Blueberry Lane.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the containment pond might be 25 years old,
Mhm.
so they have lots of misinformation.
Mhm.
And Stetson Pond is part of groundwater. You probably don't realize that all those bogs were completely covered in water in April because of the amount of rain we had this past
Mhm.
year. So the containment pond goes up, Stetson goes up, the bogs go up. The water in the bogs goes down, the containment pond goes
Mhm.
down, Stetson goes down. You can't suck any water anywhere near us and not have Stetson Pond go down. That's a crock. I don't care if you're down 75 feet or 100 feet. I've been there my whole life. I'm 65 years old. I've seen it sucked down when Ocean Spray and Cumberland Farms used the water to flood the bogs when they were bogs.
Oh, they pull it right out of the pond.
Right. So I've seen the pond go way down low, and it's not a pretty sight.
Right, no, I said that, I don't want to.
And as far as we all knew, all those bogs were owned by the federal government. So how does someone get an easement, again, through Blueberry Lane without even notifying the members of Blueberry Lane to some chunk of property out there? You know, why are we the last to know? And we live there.
Water's like oil.
Unfortunately, that was done when the bogs were sold a long time ago. They was always there, no one ever made an issue of it.
Right.
When
And
the
then,
bo-
but
when the
then it
bogs
pops,
were-
then
when
it
the
pops
bogs
up
were
and it
sold,
doesn't matter?
The town took a portion of the bog for water resource area, and it
I
was part
understand
of the
wells are a
deal,
good
but
thing.
nobody read the deal.
But as Steve stated, what happens to us when all of a sudden Stetson Pond starts going down and down and down? And again, lots of rain, it comes up. Like people that have retaining walls in front of their houses, in the middle of the winter, the water was there. At some point, you think it's gonna stay that way, because it keeps raining and raining. But all of a sudden, June, July shows up, and it keeps going out and out and out and out, and now it's way out there compared to what it used to be. That's just natural. That's not anyone pumping.
And Little Sandy, I mean, Big Sandy is what, 60 feet deep? Well, it used to be 60 feet deep, now you take off the top. So that also is a hole almost as deep as their wells.
Right.
That's being pumped out of constantly.
Yeah.
And it's the clay layer they're talking about. I understand what they're saying. If there's a clay layer, which they say there is, you go through it, that is a seal. The water up here shouldn't go through the clay. So you pump below it, and
It should.
theoretically,
Yes.
it should all work. So
But
they
that's
have to
not
figure
proof.
it out.
There's no proof.
Proof will be when they do it, and the science that is applied to analyze it.
You can put clay between two pieces of screen and a glass and pour water on top. Eventually, it goes down.
How much clay and what type? That's just-
Yeah, but eventually it goes to the bottom of the glass.
I think
So
what they're
it's
saying
not
here,
a
though,
it's
is-
not like concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knows what they're saying. This is science. They're gonna apply science. It's for the future, not
And
like-
is Blueberry Lane an access point for these people? Because, I mean, we suffer with it the way it is now. Now we're gonna have lots of traffic on it?
I don't know how much traffic would be on it. You'd have to ask them.
I was just wondering that, because the project description outlines the entire thing.
We already actually have it through the bog.
Yeah,
That's how you
I
got.
think
Well, I know.
It's just for exploratory then.
Right, the bog.
It's exploring. We can
Yes,
get the data
no, I
back
know where the water main
and then
is because
understand what
it
they're saying, but
broke
we need to
last
have
year.
them
And
give specific references
there's a
to
road
data
there
that
that
we
was
we can bring
part of
this
the
up.
bogs, when it was Edgewater
There's
bogs.
2 22-inch mains right through that bog as well.
Okay,
Yeah, rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brockton's.
so I do
But
just,
That's a road that's part of the bog, which means it should sort of be part of the federal government land. I know when I looked on my phone, it was posted as Blueberry Lane. That's not Blueberry Lane. That road that they used, that's not
I
Blueberry
think too,
Lane.
these people are looking way down the road. This isn't gonna happen tomorrow.
yeah, so
No.
this is all part of the process.
Part of a long process for the town to
I
have
know,
water.
but again, this is the first time we've been notified of anything happening. I think we should have been notified someone was gonna go out there and start drilling. I believe we had every right. And why wasn't it done?
I don't know if there's any specific obligation. I can't speak on behalf of the
We
DPW.
weren't told from
This be
DEP
continued?
that we needed an NOI to do the test well.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
By DEP, they said we didn't need an NOI to do the initial.
So this is for I just want to like ask a clarifying question. So this is just specifically for the testing. It's not for the actual project itself.
That's
It's
right.
not going to result in this being constructed. We
That's
don't have
right.
enough information for that anyways. So, I mean, we need to know if it's feasible and we need to have adequate information from the most recent sources and we just need to have proper data in order to make a final decision on that. And the reason why you're here is to start getting to that point where you can have that answer.
Right.
So I think,
That's right.
all concerns considered, without a doubt, that it's still, we need to give them the opportunity to see what's out there.
No, I know, we're not talking about someone building a house here.
No, of course not.
Yeah, then we can
And,
revisit
I mean, I
your
hope that nobody
concern.
does it.
and sand socks aren't gonna cut it.
No, it's a
Stuff like
pond.
that. No, you gotta, again, we live there.
No, I can see
Well, that's why,
what you're saying.
that's why we're on the Conservation Commission, because we do care about the impacts, so,
Protect where you live. I think those are all honorable things,
yeah.
you know, I wouldn't put you down.
Hi, everybody, Sharon
Mara, 85 Elmer Street. So I am that parcel that sort of got in the way of doing whatever the other one was. So that's me, that she pointed out. I obviously love the town, been here 32 years. I know we need the water. I 100% agree with that. I just hope that we hold our town to the same standards that we hold our community members and residents to.
Yes.
And I will agree that it was a little upsetting to go in my backyard and go for a walk and see metal sticks sticking out of the bogs. When I put a shed up, I came before you. When I put a pool up, I came before you. I don't come here asking for forgiveness, I always come here asking for approval, okay? I don't understand why the town, and again, I don't blame you, you know who I blame, is the board that was in place in 2007, otherwise known as the guiding light of Pembroke, is what they told me when they had me in illegal executive session, okay? So you can't find those tapes anywhere, by the way, because they have disappeared, okay? So I'm a little flavored or spicy about this topic, only because I do think that we have to hold our town to the same requirements that we do. The people out, huh? Yes, that means you. No, but out back,
Let's make a vote.
this past weekend, there was parties going on back there. That reservoir, that's what it was called. So just to give a history too, and if you ever want that, feel free to come over and we'll have some coffee or maybe a glass of wine or two. The reservoir was put in probably 25, 26 years ago, because I already had Casey at that time. PA Landers had built that. It was man-made. They needed it for the bogs, specifically because it was drawing down too much on Stetson and on Little Sandy. There's also, Bob, across the street from me, we used to call it Turtle Pond. So there's a little pond, that's a vernal pool, or how big is a vernal pool? I don't remember all these things, but there's water there too. So not only do I think that we have to be concerned about what's gonna happen to Stetson, potentially what's gonna happen to Sandy, but what's gonna happen to that area across the street as well. So, if you went past my house on the left, you go down sort of right there, there's a gate. That whole area, right where you're talking about putting the pump out house or the pump house where it's gonna be. So I think that has to be looked at as well. A tree or a branch fell on the gate that has been there. I've been there 32 years. The gate has had many a trees fall on it. DPW or whoever went in there with big machinery, ripped it out of the ground and threw it into the area. They didn't come here before you. They should have, because I'm telling, they were within a buffer zone of some sort, but they didn't. Those are the answers I would like to have. Like, why didn't they have to do that? And I think my concern is for future things. I'm glad that we're here now, because at least we have the opportunity to see what is gonna happen, and we have the opportunity to let you know what has already happened. So at least your eyes are open to it, and you can still monitor them and what they're doing. It is a mess, an absolute mess, what they've done over there. And the area, if you go down Elmer Street, I don't know, did you put the logs there? Who put the
They
logs?
put them back. We had to move them to get the rigs in, because they parked there.
But that was a mess too, you have to admit. I mean, it was almost like, it sounds sort of funny, it was like you went in with bulldozers, right? But this is all wetlands. It's really something that should have been protected. There was nothing out there. When this land was purchased, Edgewood, I knew a lot about it. Edgewood sold, they got the grant from the federal government. And then we were told that the water department was the only department that had money to buy the land, so the town had the land. Nothing at that point was ever talked about we're buying this land for this water, just so everybody's fully aware of what we were told. Then you fast forward a little bit to, okay, now we're gonna use it as water, because according to that board, they were the guiding light of Pembroke. And they wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. So that's what they wanted to do that. I just want to make sure that we're spending a lot of time, energy, and money to see if we can get enough water without having an adverse, situation happen with Blueberry Lane and their houses, and Stetson and Little Sandy. So we're spending all this money to see if we can but then what happens if you can't, like, we're just wasting this money? Like, I'd like to know, okay, how big is this thing going to be? Literally, nobody has told us anything.
We're too early in it because originally they were estimating less than $500,000 a day, depending on how viable the aquifer is. So this is very.
It's primordial.
How any test wells.
We don't even know.
And then does it affect
may not
everybody
be
else who
viable.
has a well on that street, on the street? So I have a well, so is that gonna affect my well?
Yeah, it's like putting
Like
all
she
the
said,
straws
we
in the
have-
same cup.
Is it 15 monitoring wells around site? So there's 15 other 2-inch wells around, and they're gonna have digital gauges that record.
Real time.
Yeah, real time,
Right.
what's happening to the water table as we're.
And how loud is that whole process? Like I said, I didn't know that you were gonna be drilling anything out there until my house started shaking.
I'm not sure what type of rig you're bringing up.
So it would be a small rig, but there are a lot of wells already out there.
Yeah, I know, I saw it, it shook my house.
So we're gonna be using, those are old wells,
Okay.
the old wells, so we're
Yeah.
gonna use those to the extent we can. And I know you discussed, the parcel across the street over.
Yeah, Turtle
here.
Pond.
Yeah.
AKA, otherwise
Way
known
out
as
there.
Turtle Pond. It's right over here, this.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean,
So
I'm
the
sorry.
wells back.
That here, I mean, you can even see that there's water there now, and there's that whole stream that's going there, and then you're planning on putting a house there. So, I mean, I don't know, is it a pump house that's the size of a shed, or would it be a pump house the size of this building? Because to me, it doesn't make sense to go this far if you're gonna have a problem putting something really, how big do you need it?
Yeah, so like I said, without knowing how many gallons to make, it's all gonna factor in at the end.
So the
We
size
know
of this
what-
will be
what
based on the
size.
size of what you have there. Okay, so say you're getting a lot of water, right? I mean, I'd like to know how big of a building could potentially be there. If you're gonna get your 1,000,000 gallons a day,
Yes.
so how do you assess that? Okay, I get 1,000,000 gallons a day, that means my building is gonna be a 3,000 square foot building.
So, like I said, there's a lot of factors, because we don't even know, we have a good idea what the water quality is, but say we did testing and we were under the influence of surface water, that completely changes the layout of the plant. There's so many factors, this is so early in it,
Yeah.
until we have it permitted, I mean, DEP could just shoot it down, and this could be dead tomorrow.
Yep.
But we are investing the money because in 2007 it was approved, and they saw no.
It was approved, and we also had different boards, and we also had a lot of differences
But
going on in our town.
it still went through
It was
DEP's
a
process,
DEP.
and
Okay.
it was all approved by DEP. So, like I said, we have an engineer who's gonna present all this information to
Is this-
DEP, their engineer's
And
gonna review.
preliminary.
Is this line your 200?
That's our 250
That's your
foot.
250 foot one?
So that will be dedicated just to protecting the water supply.
And then when you were just talking a little while ago, and you said that you had these pits here, right? So you have
That's
one
where
there
we're
for
gonna,
your discharge.
they're not pits, they're
Well,
really just,
your
you know,
discharge.
discharge the water on there.
But
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I just
No,
want to
no,
know.
okay. It's okay to ask questions.
So
I
with
guess
the discharge,
the whole thing is though,
Okay,
is that, so like,
hold
we're
on.
hearing this with respects to the Wetlands Protection Act, and now you guys are talking about technicalities of the
no, I'm
actual.
asking about the protection. I
This is
want to
what-
know about the
well,
water.
We're not
Is
even
it-
that far along yet.
Right, this
It's
is
not
all-
even at
Yeah,
that
we're
point.
like in the
They're just gonna
primordial soup
test to
phase.
see if the
Well,
water
she
is
just said when they test the
viable.
water, they're going to empty it here.
Right, 2 sites.
We have tested the water
The-
already.
But
I'm
it's
just
not a
curious where that
significant
We're
water
doing a
test.
5-day
It
pump
infiltrates,
test for
especially
So it just
viability.
we're doing.
filtrates back into the.
Yeah,
So-
and it will do that over there
I-
too, so.
I'd like to make a motion to close this aspect of,
Well, what if I have more questions, Gino?
well, we're really
Well,
not
because
at
you
the
ran late
point.
on all your other scheduled meetings tonight, and I think
Well,
as a
what
resident, I
what he's
should be
saying
able
is
to
we need
still
keep
talk.
the
Yeah, we've
questions
been on
I
relative-
this
am
one
keeping the
for
questions, I'm back to
Hold
it.
on, hold on.
And I
Relative
just- I'm
to
trying
what
to
we're
figure out
actually
the
doing,
system.
Not 20 years down the road, that may or may not happen.
I understand that.
We don't even know if they're going to. Did-
It's
Could be
24.
30 years down the
So,
road.
so this is for the process of collecting data,
Takes
so
a long
they
time.
are then, with the findings that they have, going to provide a proposal for the actual impacts that would take place, assuming we approve
Will they be
it.
held to keeping the bogs safe?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yes.
I
Okay,
mean,
so but they're
that's-
in there
yeah,
with
there are
machinery.
performance
If I
standards.
do anything on my property, I have to have, I go through all the processes.
Yeah.
They went in there with bulldozers and ripped the place apart, and none
Right.
of you knew about it.
And I have a question about that. I don't know if there were administrative approvals, or I don't want to speculate, but I just, and I have those curiosities
Yeah.
myself, you
Okay.
know.
My other question is I don't understand why don't we get anything from the town when these meetings happen? That
Well,
we
that's
get
why we
something
have,
from him?
but that's why they filed the notice of intent.
That's what we're
So there'll be
doing
a
now.
I wish
public
Sabrina
hearing
was still here.
process, and that this public hearing could happen and make it transparent.
I
So that's why
understand
they
that.
filed the notice of intent.
But why doesn't I'm just curious, why doesn't the town of Pembroke let us know? Why did it come from you?
That's the way the regulations
They're
are,
the
because we're the
applicant.
one
They're
doing the
filing
work.
it on behalf of.
Yeah,
So
they're-
they do it so it doesn't come, because I know with
They're
other
contracted by the
zoning-
town
No,
to
it's from the
facilitate.
town of Pembroke. They're the applicant who, on behalf of the town of Pembroke.
Yep.
So 3 people.
They're facilitating on behalf of the town
Oh,
because the
yeah,
town
because I
doesn't
asked,
have
I reached out to
expertise.
some of my neighbors today and I said, are you going tonight? And they're like, I just got the notice that it's in my mailbox. Like that they had got delivered, but they were working, so they didn't even get their letter.
I mean,
So-
the regulations say whatever.
I just think it should be
Okay.
fair, that's all, that people should be notified.
This is notice of
Agreed.
intent,
Mhm.
but there was no notice of intent when bulldozers and drill rigs showed up.
That's what I'm confused
Right,
about.
so here's what I would do if I were.
So we found something that happened that was wrong, what's gonna be done about it?
You're not talking about 2007, you're talking
No, I'm
about.
talking
most
about
recent.
this past summer.
Yeah,
We're
so
not even
here's what I
sure.
would do if I were you. If
We're
I
not
were
sure
in your
it's under
situation,
jurisdiction.
you are
It's federal.
verbalizing your complaint, but I would issue that complaint to the town through a letter
It's
as
not our
well, just so
jurisdiction.
that they're
Okay.
aware. It's just, and I can't provide the advice, that's what I.
Yeah, so we
I would
originally contacted DEP, and a notice of intent wasn't required, even for this phase it's not, but
Right.
there was some concerns about when we did the test wells, so we said, let's put it out there so everybody's aware.
And
We
we-
technically don't even have to do this part.
And we did notify
But how come you
conservation
don't have to do anything
about it
that we
too,
have
that
to
we
do?
were gonna go out there.
And I
with
think we have a
exploration.
problem here that
So,
just because you don't have to file a notice of intent, doesn't mean that anytime you work in the wetland area or the buffer of the wetland area,
That's my
the
point, thank you.
Conservation Commission should be notified. I mean, we're
Every in the
saying
loop.
notice of intent. That's the far end of the list. Right at the beginning is, if we're going in here and doing anything that's going to affect the soil or the vegetation, then at least the Conservation Commission should be notified that you're going to do it. Even if it's as simple as a call to the office, which is the simplest thing. And from then on, there's other forms, depending on what kind of work you're going to do. And usually it'll be approved almost instantaneous.
right. Well, so that's
these
what we
things would be
did, is we
done,
contacted conservation when we did the original work, and they said, check with DEP if you need to get any permits. So I contacted DEP, and she said they're not gonna require anything if conservation doesn't require anything. So everybody said, because it was just preliminary exploration, that's what it was.
Even
It
though
was a
it's
small
preliminary,
rig.
but you're
in front
on
of
the
everybody, I'm
reservoir with
slapping
fish
my
living in
hand.
it.
And it's
I'm slapping
arguably
my
a
hand.
utility.
We
I'm sorry?
evidently
It's
messed
arguably a
up somehow
utility, so-
along the way, whether we think we did
It's,
or
well, the
not.
town is, it's
We'll
for
take
the
the
town's
responsibility.
utilities.
Can
That's what we were
Can I
talking.
just say just one thing so the folks came in, the end of my property is 100 feet from the pond. It's the end of my property. And then, the DPW came in and cut down a whole bunch of trees, and sapling, some of them, all the sapling, so they cut down a bunch of trees, all within 150, certainly less than 200 feet from the pond. Which, being a former conservation agent, I can tell you,
For this
certainly for this project,
Didn't clarify that.
yeah, for this particular project, and you were not notified of that. So what leads me,
Not as far as I
my
know.
concern is if they can do that without telling you what they're doing, then what makes me confident that they're not gonna go ahead and do something else that, I'm not blaming you, Daniel, that do something else that you're not aware of or don't approve of. I don't have any confidence that if during the fourth day of the 5-day test, they find that Stetson Pond has dropped 19 feet, that they're going to stop. And someone isn't gonna just say, well, you know, I don't live on Stetson Pond, it's not, I can't see it from Ashland where I live.
The state
I
has to
don't
come
have
out and
any,
approve it. They
pardon
have
me?
to come out at the end of the pump test. We can't shut down until the state comes out and inspects all the work while the test.
And they'll be inspecting the pond, they'll be
They have to
monitoring the
verify all
level.
the data,
Okay.
and we have to finish the water sample.
I don't have any confidence that other town boards are going, or town departments are going to do the same thing. And just to reiterate what you said, that you're not gonna require the same thing of the DPW, Board of Health, or anybody else that does work in this town, that you require of the residents. We just want you to be fair and apply it across the board, because I do not want to live next to a mud pit.
Understood.
Because they decided to run amok and you weren't aware.
So, Rick, Nicole, James, Bob, so like, okay, so your previous, you know, person that you had here was putting up a deck, and he's literally on a slope like this with tiered property.
Yeah,
He
we
has to
can't,
put all that stuff in.
we
I know.
can't further discuss that because we closed that.
No,
hearing.
but what I'm saying is,
So-
I'm just giving an example. And he had to put down the silt fence and the silt sock. But here you have trucks, like big trucks with drills in it and everything sitting right here. And I don't, why is nothing required to go around this area? If that truck tips over, we've all seen that happen before, like on septic systems and things like that.
Yep.
If that truck tips over and now we have oil and gas and everything else, why is there nothing required where these pits are?
Because we were not notified that it was going to happen ahead of time.
But
And
aren't
that's
they
where
doing it
the-
again?
You're talking about this application.
This
right?
application,
Not
yeah.
a prior application.
Yeah, this application. So aren't they gonna do it again? Isn't that what they're doing now?
That's what this application is for, is for further testing.
I believe they have, that the residents have shown that if the first time a truck comes in that they don't know about, that they should be calling the office or calling my phone. And as you know, and most of them know, I will answer my phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you can convince me that you have a problem or a likely problem or something is going wrong, that I will be there just as quick
And I
as I
truly-
can.
and I truly
And I know
believe that.
Andy will be the same way.
I truly believe that. Are these pits already done and all you're doing, I don't understand the process, just sucking water out of them? Or are there big trucks going back out there again with the drills?
We're gonna go out there and install a larger well so we can pump at a higher rate.
So a big truck?
So that we can, yeah, similar to
So
what was
that's
out
my
there before.
point.
So that
Do
we-
they need to have anything around that buffer?
Just one well,
We're doing 4 wells,
4 12-inch cases.
4 12-inch wells.
Cases.
Yep.
Cases.
When-
Casing,
when-
they'll be cased. Yep.
When drill rigs are working, they should have emergency spill equipment available to them at all times.
And they do.
Just re-
Definitely.
Yeah, they wouldn't
And
park
that's,
on top of
that's
it.
standard whether they've talked to us or not. They should have that for their own protection as well as everybody else's.
Yeah, we always
They
make sure
would park on
that,
top of it.
yeah.
And a lot of times, these companies, where they're going into sensitive areas, their lubricants are actually household vegetable oil. That's required a lot of the times. So I know they do take precautions against those type of spills.
I have a question. Is this GIS image the only thing that we have, or do we have a formalized site plan indicating limits of work? Oh, that entire thing? Thank you very much. Do you mind if I take a look at it, Andy? Thank you.
How's the water getting from the 4 wells to the pump house eventually when that's up? Where's it?
So eventually, we already have a main that feeds your street that runs through that other path where the culvert is, so I believe that's how we're gonna go.
Okay,
So
down that.
we're early in the phase
Yeah.
where we have to figure out, you know, where the facility's gonna go and all that. But currently, there's already a water main, chances are we'd run parallel to that to get out. Which comes out to that parking area, that clearing.
Yes, exactly. There used to be a pump out. I grew up there and there used to be a little pump house there.
And no, they didn't put all the logs back.
I believe, I know Highway, they went to pick up a couch, somebody called, I think the week after we were gone, somebody threw a couch, and the Highway doesn't like picking up couches either, so I believe they put them back. Somebody might have pushed them out of the way with an ATV, but
The
I
largest
can.
log is still out of the way.
That's not a big deal, we'll have them
It's
fix
not
it
back
tomorrow.
in its trench, so there's kids out there on trail bikes again, and
Not a problem, I'll have it moved tomorrow, we'll get machines.
Do you think they will put something up, at least temporarily, to prevent cars from going back there and around the
I was
wells?
unaware that cars were going down there,
Oh
we
my
don't
God.
want cars
Yeah.
going down there, absolutely, we
I
don't want
didn't,
to
I
damage the
wouldn't
wells.
think so, but
Especially
I,
because it's a water supply
Well,
site.
that's what I
you know?
but you forgot, you took down a
Yeah,
fence
thank you.
that kept people from driving their cars out there. So they were parking behind all of us. We didn't want them there, but there wasn't anything we could really do, even though there was a sign saying, no one's supposed to go back there. I mean, yeah, people walk there, and you wouldn't think that that would be a problem, but legally, you weren't even supposed to do that. Now you take down the fence. Where do you think the cars are gonna go that drive in on Blueberry Lane, not the road you took? There's no fence, we can drive all the way out. And they did, but you guys didn't think of that.
Because we're still working on it, we didn't want to put up something permanent yet.
Yeah, but you gotta put something up that you can open and close to keep,
Yeah, you put a chain up and then somebody gets killed and the town gets sued.
well, no, there was a gate there.
You gotta be careful.
The gate was
and the
damaged,
DPW
they
removed the
pushed it
gate.
up.
Why is
It
it
wasn't
so
like the
the gate back?
DPW that removed the gate. It was not the DPW that removed the gate.
Who was it?
You're
was it?
making a false statement there.
Who did? Who did, Mr.
Mean to
Clark?
call you one, but that was not the people that did it.
Mr. Clark, who did it then? While I was there, watching.
You watched the DPW
Yeah.
do it.
I did, I was there.
I don't believe it.
I believe the gate was damaged and there was a
It
tree
was,
down and they
yeah.
pushed
Not
it.
not the first time it was removed then.
Okay.
I'm talking about the very original gate that was there. It was put there and taken down, and put there and taken down so many times that you didn't even have to dig a hole anymore to put the thing in. And this has been going on for 5 to 7, 10 years. That gate's been going in and out.
Well, this, we're talking about the most recent.
Yeah, so I think we walked it with the well driller the week before
Yeah, it's just a lot.
for access, and everything was fine, and then the day they showed up, the tree was down on top of the gate. So we asked the DPW to move it, because the rigs were there.
And I get that, I was just, so,
Okay.
just fix it. I mean, just, so why wouldn't we fix it
All right,
after?
we're going way off track here. All we want to do is give them permission to drill and find out if it's viable. And then we can come back and go over all this stuff. And now we know the concerns. And let's just go that far. And maybe they won't even be able to draw enough water to make it worthwhile. We understand all the concerns that you have, because if I lived over there, I'd be thinking the same thing
Yes,
too.
and I think we pointed
Right.
out that some things were done wrong.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with what we're trying to do right now.
I know.
You guys are
but
talking
you
among
can't-
yourselves.
You can't let
We
something
we
like
just
that
want to
happen.
make a decision and go home.
All right,
Well,
so
I'd like
Right
to make
now.
one, I have never met Dan. Dan is new here, and I have been out of service for a while. I think Dan and I can get together and work this out so that what he is doing with the DPW can come to Andrew and to myself directly, and something like this will not happen again if we have any control over it. But we need the communications between our various departments to get this all in. We need your support for the people that live around there, because your eyes that can see things all the time. We only go by there maybe 1 or 2 times a day at the most. So we need your help. This is a situation that probably, or not probably, shouldn't have happened. But it did happen. Now we've got to make the most of it and go down the line. But this is not what we're here for. We're here for some testing to get information so we can make intelligent decisions going down the road. Is this a site that's good for the town to continue to develop? If it isn't, then we'll scrap it as quick as we can. But without the information, we don't know. And this is the way we're gonna find out. We hope. Or they hope. And with your cooperation and all, we can work as a group. But we need to work as a group together, not as a group fighting each other all the time.
for the purposes
Thank you.
of,
I've kicked my soapbox away.
it's okay. I would like, for testing purposes, I would like to see erosion and sedimentation control devices installed on site, not just available on site in the event that anything goes awry.
I agree with that.
And, I mean, can we condition that the abutters are notified prior to?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's, I
a
mean,
reasonable condition.
you know,
What happens?
that's what, yeah, so, okay, with those things in mind, does anybody have a motion?
Can I make a butters and anyone else, let them add their name to it there, because there may be somebody who's interested in this who isn't an actual butter.
Yeah, well, we won't know that unless people
I mean,
come.
Well, that's what I mean,
So the
if
butters
somebody
list
comes and
is
puts
the best list to use for that.
Right.
And maybe we put into the conditions 48 hours notice.
Yeah, I
And
think
that
that's
is
a great idea.
in there for another condition, but for the abutters, 48 hours notice.
Oh, yes. The applicant shall notify the commission at least 48 hours in advance of the specific dates of testing.
And we can
And then
add
we
the
can
abutters
say,
to that.
as well as abutters, for the interest of those who are here today and those who couldn't make it because they didn't have the notice on time.
Can we make a motion to close?
Do we got to vote on any of that?
So we have to,
On the
make
conditions?
we have to make a motion to close and we have to condition.
Make a motion to close the discussion.
Do we have a
I made it.
second?
I already made it.
Oh, I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now do we have a motion for the conditions?
Bob, you want to handle this one?
Okay, what do we, making a motion that, oh, it's a notice of intent, right? We issue the notice of intent as written and with all of the discussion, any of the discussion that was
Provided.
relayed tonight.
All right, so that would be the 48 hours notice in advance for abutters as well as the commission, and having the erosion and sedimentation control devices in place on site rather than just available on site.
All right, yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you for bringing your concerns to us.
Oh, absolutely.
We really do, but this is the kind of stuff that we need to hear so that we can build better communication.
Okay, we've got a couple of other
All right.
things that we need to, some business we need to attend to.
Yeah,
before we
let's go through them as
finish up
quickly.
tonight. All right, so I do
Okay,
need
this-
signatures from the commissioners for some of the things that we've done tonight. So let me get you started on that, all right?
Yep.
We'll start here. I need 4 of you, okay? So, let's go with that. We've got 2 requests for certificates.
Nice to meet you too, guys.
If we can take the conversation outside, please. We still have- we still have-
Yeah, but we still have business to take care of.
Move now.
So,
Folks, if we can take the conversation outside, please. We have to finish our business.
gentlemen,
All right, thank you. Good to see you.
we all do. We can't talk, we are talking. Sorry.
Okay, so we
Nice to
have,
meet you.
we have,
84 Hazelwood.
yeah, well, let me just briefly go over 84 Hazelwood with you. John Zimmer, I shared the email with Nicole.
Yeah.
John Zimmer's he's doing the restoration. He's not quite complete yet. If you have any questions or any concerns, I know Gino and Nicole both went and did the site walk. If you have any concerns based on that site walk you want to provide to me, I'll get them over to John Zimmer, but he's working on the project. You should have something available next week for us, all right?
All right, so are we making any motions
No,
tonight?
no,
We're
no
not
action.
doing.
This is
all right.
business.
No
That-
action needs to be taken.
When he's done.
No action needs to be taken. Chris Rose called me today. I told him that
Where's the one,
we'll put him on the agenda for October 3rd.
There, over here.
All right, so you've got 2 requests for a certificate of compliance. The first one is for 0 Pleasant Street. You heard about that in the first hearing today. That's to close out the test work that they did under the prior NOI. I need you to vote on that. The work is obviously done because they've issued an NOI for
Just one more signature.
the work going forward.
When I sign
So
it first.
if the commissioners would make a motion, someone make a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for 0 Pleasant Street, that would be appreciated.
Okay, well, sign it. So what? Sign it.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the request for certificate of compliance for 0 Pleasant Street. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, so let's get that signed off on.
Sorry?
Done.
We're not supposed to make a motion.
I'm allowed to, when
okay.
desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm feeling pretty desperate.
It's
yeah.
moving
Sorry.
things along, so we appreciate it.
Getting cranky, Bob.
Okay, now, I just want to,
Minutes of the meeting, too.
we're going to get to that. We've got another certificate of compliance. Now, I want you guys to take a look at the pictures. This is 50 Allen Street. I went over to look at it. This was a replication. Those of you who were on the board when it was approved, it's had 2 growing seasons, all right? And it was a replication on 50 Allen Street. I went and took a look at it. We took some pictures. I'm going to share those with you now. So take a look at the pictures. I would say that more than 75% of the plantings are,
Mature.
have survived.
And mature.
Yes. Well, mature, it's 2 growing seasons, so we don't have a high level of maturity, but if you look at the trees that have been planted, they look like they're in good shape. Lost a couple of blueberry bushes and maybe 1 or 2 white cedars, but for the most part, it looks good.
My only question is that on the application, it says that there's supposed to be a statement from the engineer saying that everything is okay. I was there right on the application.
Okay. Well,
No, I mean, and that can be an after the fact, but I mean,
Yeah.
after listening to constituents tonight saying they want everything,
Yeah.
the same, I think, it's not too much to ask them to send a piece of paper saying everything is okay.
Okay, well, the work is complete, and it's up to you if you wanna,
Now, do we still hold money and all that? That was a project, that we held money and other things, or held all sorts of stuff up on
I
it.
think that's all cleared up. I don't see anything that any money held for that one.
Yeah, I mean, we,
That I'm aware of.
that was a long demonstration.
It was a long process, I understand that, it's way
Behind
before
the
my
box.
time, but,
No.
yeah. And I think it went through 2 owners.
No.
Yeah, I went through 2 owners, and it was all over about a piece of property about this big.
I know. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for whatever the number is.
50 Allen Street.
50 Allen Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, Jim got it.
Aye.
Beat him to the punch.
Okay,
Aye.
good. All right, and,
Gotta speak up, Jim.
other than that, all
Sorry.
You gotta turn
all
those
that's
earbuds
left
up.
is, and still, don't run, because I still have other things for you to sign, okay? But I have the approval of the minutes of the meetings next, if you'd like to take care of that business.
That's all that's left, right?
We have more stuff to sign.
You have more stuff to sign, yep.
Meeting minutes.
The minutes look good.
No, I thought the minutes were good.
That's not a
Good job, Andrew.
Thank you.
We're gonna do the meeting minutes?
Yep, we have to approve the meeting minutes. Somebody needs to motion for it.
Oh,
or provide
motion.
room.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes of August 1st, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Moving on.
If you
We're
wish
gonna have
to
to take
adjourn, you may do so, but I'm gonna ask you to sign this paperwork before you leave the building.
Who would like to make a motion?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, here's your next one.